Hello, Space Junkies, and welcome to episode 124 of What a Piece of Junk, the Star Wars podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. I am your agreeable host, Scott Botman, and joining me for this very special card game focused episode of the podcast is my original Wookiee co pilot, our very own Mr. Miracle, the Gooey Chewy, our Dave Filclone, man of 1,000 nicknames. It's Nathan Miracle. Nathan, how's it going?
It is going pretty well. I just got back from Gen Con, is what I wish I was saying, but I didn't get to go this year. But I did make sure to have Star Wars the card game in the background here, since we are talking about Star Wars card games, although not this one. But
That's right.
hey,
And
FFG, if you want to make expansions for that, or maybe even a Clone Wars version of it, I'm game.
That's right. And I actually used the Gen Con weekend opportunity to teach my nephew, Daniel, how to play that game behind you, and he had a blast. He is a Magic the Gathering fan, but he had never learned a deck building game because he's quite young and he sort of missed the deck building fad. And he loved it because he's also a Star Wars fan. He actually beat me the first time we played, and then we played a second time, and I got my win back. So we're now 1-1, and we must play the rubber match the next time he's visiting or I visit him. But we here at the Drunken Gungan are part of a rebel alliance. Sometimes we're even part of a little underground network, and we had one of our agents who was on the ground in Indianapolis this year to learn about the Star Wars card game that we're all going to talk about all next year and all this episode, Star Wars Unlimited. And here he is joining us again in the cockpit of the Drunken Gungan, the one and only Sugi, Jonathan Sugiyama. Welcome back, Sugi.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How y'all doing?
We are doing great, especially since we get to talk to you about all this cool info about Star Wars Unlimited.
Yeah, and
So yeah,
just a
just
little bit jealous that you got to go to Gen Con and we didn't.
yeah, maybe
Well,
more than a
I,
little.
I have something you guys will love. I've got two sets of these promotional full art Luke and Vader cards we're sending out to you guys. So
Oh, you are so great, man. We love you so
got you
much.
covered.
Not just because you get us stuff. Yes, excellent.
But
Yeah.
mostly
I
because you
So
get us stuff.
yeah, I only had to play like 8 hours of Star Wars Unlimited while I was at Gen Con. Darn.
Only
oh, the
had to play or
sacrifices you
only
make.
got to play.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I guess so. Let's remind folks the basics of the game. So this is going to be Fantasy Flight Games' new collectible Star Wars card game. So we will be opening booster packs, and we have learned, of course, starter decks, and checking out all the product and hoping that we pull cool rare cards and looking for new and exciting versions of our favorite Star Wars characters. The original set is going to be focused on the original trilogy, so that's where we will be starting our journey chronologically for this game.
Mhm.
But there'll probably be a few things woven into the Galactic Civil War timeline that you don't always think of. We saw one of those cards earlier this year, a restored Arc fighter that was used by the Rebels,
Very
which
good
is
card.
cool. Yeah, very good card. But it's something that we haven't seen a lot of in some GCW focused gaming of Star Wars, and that is the Rebels reusing technology from the Clone Wars. But I
Mhm.
think that's a cool idea. And
And
so,
I love the fact that they gave the restored ARC 170 the restore keyword.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Very,
So,
very
Suki, yeah, take us through your journey into playing the game at Gen Con, and tell us what all did that entail. Did you have to stand in line for like 12 hours, or what was the deal?
No, this wasn't Disney Lorcana, thank God. There, ask all the questions you want. Um, there's a lot to talk about. So the nuts and bolts of the game, to answer your question, kind of fundamentally comes down to this is definitely a very competitive style trading card game. So comparison to the newest game on the market, which would be Lorcana. So in Lorcana, you're on a race to 20 lore. There's no killing, there's no death. It's very
Mhm.
Disney friendly. Star Wars Unlimited is very much the standard trading card game. You have 30 life or 30 health, however you want to parse it. Your base is your health. Once you hit zero, you are dead. You've exploded. So your characters die, your ships die. Like you're playing much more on the standard, more Decipher card game or
Hmm.
Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh. So
Right.
your resources matter, your cards matter, card advantage, tempo. A lot of the standard stuff people are used to in the terminology is very applicable here. Um, I think one of my friends put it very eloquently, and it feels like you're playing three games. You're playing a ground front, you're playing a space front, and then your leaders are kind of doing this jockeying dance of using their abilities and then figuring out what a good time to use their epic action to summon them onto the battlefield is. It's a hyper thematic game, which I love. Some people complain it's kind of goofy. There's a card called um, I'm Your Father, I believe is what it's called, and it
Yep.
states either deal 7 damage or say no, and your opponent draws 3. And I was quite literally playing a demo game, and someone behind me stands up and goes, "No!" And we're like, "Oh, well, okay." So like this is something that will happen at both locals and tournaments. And at first I was like, "Huh, this is awkward." Then I was like, "Oh, I know what card he's playing. Oh, I know what that effect is. Oh, hey, that's actually kind of cool that he's kind
Yeah.
of getting into the thematic aspect, not just going." So I had this played. I played it on someone. They're like, "No," and it was a lot. It was a
And you're
lot
like,
less fun.
this is kind of
Yeah,
a
I was like,
letdown.
yeah, I was like no emotion. He goes, "No, no, nothing." He goes, "No,
No, just no.
just no."
No,
So I
no, you
kind of
draw cards now.
enjoyed the guy behind me who got really into it versus my opponent who was like, "No."
It,
So I was
it
like,
very
"Oh,
much it very much reminds me of the Leroy Jenkins card from the old
yeah,
World of Warcraft trading card game, in
yeah,
which when
Mm,
you played it, if you screamed out his catchphrase of
yeah,
Leroy Jenkins, you got a bonus effect. So
oh
that's
yeah."
pretty cool.
So I think it's funny because I've seen people talk online about how maybe Star Wars Limited is a little like too goofy, and it's a little not serious, and like that interwoven theme actually makes the game way more fun, I think, because of that exact experience of someone getting really into it versus someone going, whatever, no, I don't care, just play the card. So I think you're going to see some really fun interactions as the game is played, even though it is competitive.
Mhm.
Some Another really cool combo is there's a card called Admiral Mahdi, and if he is defeated or destroyed or whatever, he untaps something. And then there's the Force Choke card, which costs 2, but if you have a Force user, it costs 1. You deal 5 damage to a thing, and then whatever player you use that on, you draw a card. So there's a combo with Darth Vader online that you can swing with Vader. You deal 5 damage to whatever, generally the base. You do 2 damage to something else. Then you use Force Choke to Force Choke Mahdi like he did in the movie. You kill Mahdi, untap Vader, you draw a card, and then you use Vader again. So out of nowhere, you can do 10 damage to the base, which is a third of your life, by the way, and then 4 damage spread whatever you want, and you get to draw a card. So the Force Choke replaces itself and this is for 1 resource. So it's hyper thematic because it's a
Yeah.
screenshot from the movie, but it also gives you some really cool like strategic value. I was just like,
Yeah.
whoa, because I did it. I was like, wait a minute, I've seen this before. Oh yeah, this is from episode 4. Also, you're dead. I'm sorry. Good game. Because my opponent was like, I've got 10 health. He can only swing for 5. I'll take the initiative. I'll be safe. I'm like, okay, cool. Sorry, my bad. So
Wow.
there's a lot of theme. There's a lot of strategy. It's really really good. Like it's a really good game.
Taking
It's
the
fun.
initiative with no defense on ground arena. I don't know about that. Ooh. All right. Well, let's talk about the whole idea there of defenses. So,
Hmm.
because online we've been discussing with other card game aficionados and Star Wars fans, and of course amongst ourselves. And sometimes we were thinking, gosh. 7 resources seems like a lot in this game. Is the game even gonna last that long? So, how many turns or resources, I should say, on average did you see? And I guess then also maybe talk a little bit about your feeling of actual time, like an hour, half an hour, that sort of thing about the
Yeah.
length of the game.
So games are done like 15 minutes.
Okay.
You go past turn 7, but your curve I think for Empire is 7 because Vader triggers his epic action at 7, and then the ATST is a 6 drop. So Normally, you don't need much higher than that. It's very uncommon because you're either going to play a big thing or two medium to small things. Now, that new ship they just announced, that's I think 9.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
probably
the
The
Relentless.
Relentless. Yeah.
And Emperor Palpatine himself is an 8.
yeah. Also, Empire has ramp. You have a 3-drop. I don't remember the name of it. It's one of those like service technicians that has the black helmet with a little slit in it, and they like pull the
Mhm.
thing down to blow up
The
planet. So
the
he's
super
I think
laser technician.
yeah, the super laser technician. I think he's a 3-drop. I think he has 2 attack, 2 HP. But when he dies, he becomes a resource. So you play him, and then if your opponent kills him, he's a resource, or you slam him into somebody and crash, and they lose a body, and you get a resource. So like you can like ramp pretty quickly if you see him in your opening hand, because 3 you can play at the end of turn 1, so you could have him online by turn 2. Yeah, and then you crash. You're up by 1, so you're at 4. Then you play, so you're at 5 on turn 2. So yeah, you can ramp really quick if you get the right hand. It's pretty gnarly. So yeah, you
And
can hit 8 or 9 easily.
this is another unit that you might actually want to force choke your own character,
Yeah,
because you'd get the card draw and you'd gain back the resource that you played on with the force choke,
yeah,
and then you'd have the extra resource next turn.
yeah. So Empire absolutely has ways to ramp out. The technician is in green, whatever that one is. I think it's command.
Command.
No. Yeah,
Command.
it's in
Yeah.
command.
Yeah. Command. Yeah.
So you can have, what is it? Playsets 3 of in this game? Because you can have
I
50 cards in a
believe
deck.
that's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are tools to ramp out. So yeah, hitting 7, 8, 9, not a problem. And games definitely can go to 7, 8, 9. If you're playing like pure aggro and you draw the nuts, you can get pretty aggressive pretty quick. But it's like every other card game you've ever played. It's definitely a threshold of it could happen, but it may or may not happen. But Empire definitely has the tools to get into those higher values. So yeah, you can easily get those massive names on the board, no problem.
Cool.
Good.
So,
Because it wouldn't be
Nathan,
Star Wars if you don't get the massive names on the board.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. All right, Nathan, I've been asking a bunch of questions. Ask away.
All right, so I'm going to ask one that's been kind of bugging me, and they had a whole stream to talk about this, although they weren't supposed to be talking about this, but it became the topic.
Mm-hmm.
Having multiple versions of the same character on the field at the same time. That strikes me as very weird. How did that feel actually playing the game, though?
So the demo decks did not have multiples of the subtyped characters. So if you had like, actually, it was only single instances of every named character. So if you played Rebels, you had like one C-3PO, one R2, one Leia, one Chewie. So there were no opportunities to have a duplicate. But when you're in the midst of the game, so looking from the outside in, you are not playing. You're just observing or talking about it, like we do as a podcast. I feel like it would be somewhat obtuse to see 2 like Leias. So you could see like a yellow Leia and a green Leia. So one would be like the Princess Leia that we've seen, and one could be like General Leia on Endor. It's like that's kind of awkward. But when you're playing the game, you don't really care. Like you want to utilize the abilities, you want to utilize the characters, you want to win. So you're more focused on the puzzle that's presented to you. What's on the board, what's in your hand, what can you play, what can't you play? Are you losing the literal base race? Are they, building up a star or a space fleet and you've got nothing to stop them? Are they building a ground fleet and you're like, should I pivot to space, try and pull some pressure off the ground? So when you're in the midst of the game, I couldn't care less if I had multiple types of cards. I care more about what options are available because it's a very, very tense game. There's a lot of tension and it's glorious because everything matters. There's very few like dead cards. There's not a lot of, well, this card's useless. I guess I'll just resource it. There's always this back and forth of like, I could resource this now, but do I need it in 2 turns? Will me inking this space unit cost me if they go into space because I have no answers? Like, there's just so much internal dialogue that I never thought, a second Yoda would be terrible. Most of the time, I'm like, I wish I had like another Yoda to maybe answer this problem I'm not able to deal with right now.
So, did you ever find? Or I guess, did anyone? You were saying the demo decks didn't really have this opportunity, so there wasn't like a Chewbacca as leader deck with also Chewbacca as a unit in it.
Correct. So it was Luke versus Vader. In that
Okay.
little snapshot where you're on Cloud City and Luke is about to get his butt cheeks handed to him. He just doesn't know it yet. So you had 30 card decks instead of 50 cards. The named characters were singletons, and then the generics were maybe two ofs. So it was the decks weren't necessarily consistent, but there was a lot of stuff you could kind of play with. So you get like one Yoda, one C3PO, one R2, but maybe you would get like two of the restored Arc 130s. You would get two of the 3/7 4-drop for Rebels, two of the 5/5 Sentinels. So a lot of the generics were very available, and then the named characters were, I don't want to say limited. It just felt more thematic because when you draw the Chewie or the Leia, it's like, ooh, this is important. I should use them.
Yeah, yeah.
So it
So
felt really good to slap down a name character and go, cool, deal with my Sentinel Chewbacca, and then whenever you attack him, he untaps. And it's like, what? And so you're like, maybe I won't do that. And then it's like, okay, cool. Then I use my epic action to bring Luke out. And you're like, oh crap, I need to attack Luke, but Chewie is there. So then you attack the Chewie, and it's like, cool, I'm going to use my Luke to attack and then put a shield on Chewie, and you're like, fuck, not again. And there's this untapped shielded
let somebody
Chewbacca.
somebody get this walking carpet out of my way.
Oh yeah, there's so many combinations of things where it's just like, oh, no. So I absolutely loved it. This game is going to do really well, I think.
So you often found yourself with plenty of answers to your opponent's threats, because that's one of the things I was worried about was if it's was it a very aggro kind of game, and like there's no place for the defense, because FFG often likes to do things where the Imperials are all about offense, even to the point of even harming themselves with the aforementioned force choke combos. And then the Rebels are all about some kind of quirky defense thing, because we have to emulate the idea of guerrilla warfare. And sometimes that works out cool and thematic. And sometimes it means that nobody plays Rebels because they're terrible when it comes to the overall metagame. What are your thoughts about that dichotomy in at least in the decks that you played, with the caveat that these are small demo decks?
Yeah, so you're gonna love this. It's actually very impressive at how many styles of play could be emulated out of these 30 card demo decks. So on paper, the Empire is the more aggressive and the Rebels are the more defensive. After playing a lot of games, I started to realize this, and when I talked to the designers, they confirmed it. The Imperial deck has aggression, like aggro tendencies in it. So like the 3/1 Stormtrooper, classic aggro, big in the front, small in the butt, does an unfairly insane amount of damage for limited resources, but a glass cannon. Like if you sneeze, it's toast. But the Imperial decks have a lot of removal and control. So they have like Force Choke, they can deal 5 damage to a thing. They have I'm Your Father, where they can either deal 7 damage to a thing or you draw 3 cards. I never drew 3 cards, so it's basically 7 damage. There's the 3-drop that deals 4 damage, I think. You just poke a thing for 4. And then Vader himself, you can, if you play an Imperial unit. Oh, actually, he's literally right here. What am I doing? His action is for 1 resource.
I'm holding the card.
I could read the card. So you pay a resource, you tap him. If you played a Imperial card this phase, deal 1 damage to a unit and deal 1 damage to a base. So you're constantly pinging the base down, but you can use that damage to remove shields. So it's really nice because if your opponent plays a thing and then shields with Luke, you can just counter and immediately get rid of that. If they don't, then you can poke little weak things. So you have this kind of control-y aggro list. It's kind of like Ragdos in Magic. It's like black-red. So you can remove things you want to remove. You can swing into things you want. You've got a lot of tools. So on paper, when people are demoing, it's like, hey, this is my first trading card game ever. It's really easy to say, hey, these are good guys and bad guys, or aggressive guys, like offense and defense. But once you really get to the meat and potatoes, very, very thick. The Rebels are way more of a classic, like mid-range zoo style of deck. So they've got the shield generation. So Luke is really annoying. Hate this guy. His ability is, let me read this right. So for 1 resource and tap, give a shield token to a Phoenix unit you play this phase. What is that?
The heroism.
The heroism. Yeah, I'm never gonna get these right. They're so convoluted to me. I like the colors, but the names are like, ugh, so bad at this. So yeah, you can shield up stuff, and if the opponent has already activated Vader or hasn't, like they don't play a unit, you just get this giant thing that says, "Hey, it absorbs all instances of damage." And I found out that they stack. So if you have 2 shields, then you have 2 just full auto blocks on incoming damage. It's so annoying.
Oh, and
Ugh.
you can have more than one shield at the same time.
You can
Okay,
have an infinite
wow.
amount of shields. So
That's huge.
I almost lost a game to a 3 shield C3PO that had 4 experience tokens. So he was swinging for 5 attack with 9 defense. So uh, I killed my own Vader with his ability. So I swing for 5 into the base. He has 1 HP left, and I was like, it says I can deal 2 damage to a unit. I'm going to kill myself, so I don't have the dishonor of dying to a thick C3PO. But yeah, he had 4 experience tokens and 3 shields. I was like, what am I looking at here? I'm losing to a droid. My droid, the droid I built. The Mattergy. What the literal crap, man? Like seriously.
You may not have recognized me because of the cannon on my arm.
Bro,
My arm's like, red because it's filled with your blood.
I feel like C3PO just picked up R2 and started throwing missile R2s at me because I was like, what the heck? He's got 4 experience tokens, so he's a 5/9. Yeah. What? And then he's like,
can I just say,
text, give a shield.
Can I just say that I have just now looked at the tokens in swudb.com's database of all revealed cards. The shield token is a really cool image. Hey, there may be more than one for all I know, but the one that we've seen is a really cool image of a B-wing with laser blasts incoming being absorbed by its deflector shield out in space. Meanwhile, the experience token, which denotes +1 power and +1 defense,
HP,
+1 power and +1 defense, is Luke doing the upside down handstand on Dagobah with Yoda perched on his foot. Beautiful stuff. I'm so happy that's the mark of experience. So a really cool idea there.
Even better, did you see the picture of the tokens from Game Genic that were being used at GenCon?
So I saw the picture that we had talked about earlier, and you had sent us a photo in our chat. But you go ahead and describe that for people who aren't necessarily watching us on video here.
Yeah, so unfortunately for people who are going to want to make tokens for this game, I don't know if you're going to really want to waste your time because the Game Genic tokens were absolutely fantastic. They were basically Sabacc cards, so they're little rectangles, but the edges are snipped off diagonally, and they just have a giant number with some really cool iconography. So there's a 1, a 5, and a 10 damage token. And then they have the giant X that you can put over your card. So where you have this epic action right here, when you have used your character and then they're defeated in combat, they go back to your, I guess,
Your
leader zone
area.
I don't know what it's called
area,
officially.
yeah.
But you put the little X token to mark, hey, you've used your epic action. You cannot use it ever again. Also, I clarified this one. You can use as many epic actions as are available to you once per game. So if you have like 3 cards and they each have an epic action, you can do all of those epic actions once. So it's not 1 epic action per game. It's one epic action per card per game. And then they have a shield token, which looks like a little scanner. It's a blue shield token, looks great. The experience tokens just have a +1/+1 that you just slap down on your card. It's got a little, not a Velcron, chevron. So it's a little V.
Chevron, yeah.
What else did they have? They just had like the perfect tokens. I would never buy anything else but the Game Genic ones. They're just exactly what you need. They're bright, they're big, they're functional.
And I've also heard that Yeah, I've also heard GameGenic is making customized boxes and sleeves for Star Wars
Mhm.
Unlimited. So
Yeah, so we took
I'm
pictures of
excited.
those as well. Those look
Oh,
sick. Yeah.
yeah. You'll have to share those with us when you get a chance. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, FFG actually
Um,
showed off some of the
Yeah.
boxes on one of their shorts, their in-flight shorts during
Yeah.
Gen Con.
So we
And
didn't get to touch
they do
them,
look
but
cool.
they're behind a piece of glass, and it's like, why not?
And
So one of the coolest things is you actually have a where's my deck box? Stand by. So you have your classic GameGenic box, which is getting green screened out, as you can see here. But in the
Correct.
front, there's a little slot where you can put your card in essentially a top loader, and it snaps right into the front. So you can actually
Oh,
see
cool.
which deck is in which box, and then you just pop it out to play it because the leader never goes into your deck. So you can
Right.
sleeve it, stick it in the top loader, and then boom, it's safe forever. And it's really, really, really cool how they did that
Yeah, that's a
for
great
their deck
idea.
boxes. Yeah.
they also showed on the stream that that it's magnetic on both
Mhm.
sides.
Yep.
So you have the lid that goes over the top, but
Yep.
it's set up in such a way that when you take it off, you can put it back on the bottom,
Yep.
so that you don't lose the top of your box, and it's magnetic
Mhm.
on both sides there too.
Yeah, so
So
they do that right now with these. As you can see, my ghost box. So you can take this off, and it's separated from the box, and so you can put it on the back, and it'll stay on.
yep, and they're
Like
doing the
so.
same thing
That's
with
pretty
these.
sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
GameGenic
that's
is
awesome.
killing it with the deck boxes right now. Like they're really doing something else.
And I
But
was
since
already a
they're
fan of their existing boxes. Nathan and I both have the big dungeon boxes they make that have the giant
Mhm.
magnetic enclosure to hold all the deck boxes. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty great.
Yeah, the fact that they're an Asmodee affiliate, I think they're owned and operated by Asmodee. So FFG is making the card game, and then Asmodee through GameGenic is making the accessories. It's like the perfect combo of here's everything you could possibly want.
Corporate synergy.
Yeah, another cool thing. Um, I don't know if they mentioned this. So the tokens that were at Gen Con are pre-production trials. So everybody was asking, where can we buy these? So the good news is they will be purchasable. They will be sold in the future. But they were constantly hinting at things they could do with OP. So in traditional Fantasy Flight games, you could only get acrylic tokens by going to OP events, and generally you had to do very well. So you have to like top out at a regional, national, or a worlds event to get your hands on the acrylic tokens. So what's interesting is the acrylic tokens that we saw are prototypes for what will be sold, but there's hinting that there will be special alternate acrylic tokens for like regionals, nationals, worlds. So if you don't go to an event, you can still get the tokens, but if you go to events, you can get primo, pimped out, different colors, different artwork, different style of tokens. So it's kind of a win for everyone because that was a big complaint from a lot of people is I don't travel, I don't go to events, I just play with my kids. Those tokens are amazing, but people are selling them for like $100 after a Gen Con tournament. I'm not paying $100
Yeah.
for plastic. So now it seems like they've learned their lesson, and GameGenic is going to provide generic tokens for everyone, and then you could potentially win more exclusive tokens, I guess you could
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
So I
Alternate
think that's a
token.
big W. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Cool. So we remember a little bit about how the resource system works, and the different attributes that are in the game. So talk a little bit about how that felt when I guess were the demo decks totally tuned to where you never had to even worry about that, or did you ever actually pay extra for a unit because you didn't have the right symbols in play?
Okay, so that was a controlled environment. There were no symbols that didn't match what your base and leader provided.
Okay.
In the future, that is an option, but everything was pretty safe. So we're probably the oddballs here. Most of the people playing Star Wars Unlimited were very much this is like my third trading card game I've ever played, or I played Pokemon one time like 8 years ago. So the average person playing Unlimited at Gen Con was not a fluid trading card game aficionado. It was like,
Really?
hey,
Okay.
it's Star Wars. I like Star Wars and it's new and I thought I'd try it. Or, you know, Timmy and Jimmy who were like, we didn't have anything better to do, so this card game thing looked fun, and there was a spot. So I very rarely heard many people who were like inundated into trading card games. Most of the time, the people I was next to were constantly asking questions of the demo people, going, "Hey, how does this work? Hey, how does this work? Hey, how does this work?" So, based on the limited experience I had, it seemed like it was mostly new folks, which is actually good that Unlimited is bringing in new hobbyists. Yeah, I can only think of some of my friends who played, and we just kind of already knew what to do, so we just wanted to play the game. And the demo people loved it because they were like, "Oh, you actually know how to play?" I'm like, "Yeah." So they're like, "Okay, let's actually play a game." I'm like, "Cool, let's go." So we ran through it, and it was lots of fun, very fun. But yeah, not many experienced folks. And like you, to answer your question, there were no out of faction colors or cards where you'd have to pay additional prices.
Cool,
Now,
cool.
I was wondering if you saw very many unique space units or any unique space units. The only one that I know of so far is the Relentless, and I'm trying to figure out how they're going to do naming conventions.
They'll figure it out. I did not see any unique space things, space units, but oh my gosh, the Empire fighters are so obnoxious. There's a 4-drop interceptor, I think, that does 3 damage on play to another space unit. So it's a body and removal, because most of the rebel space units are 3 HP or less. There's one Sentinel that's a 4/4, but I think there's only one of it. So whenever you play the interceptor, it was just like, hey, I think it was a 3/2 body, and I blow something up, and I haven't even done anything. I'm just like, oh. So playing it felt great. Having it played on me felt awful. And they had 2 of those, and it's just like, oh, that's not good. Dang, bummer. So yeah, I actually don't think the named characters are. So here's a thought. The named characters feel much more like this thematic impact on the board. So when you see a Chewie played, you're like, that's not good. I got to deal with it. But it's a one of. It's very specific. It's very special. So like when you're playing the game, there's kind of this dance where you do a thing, your opponent does a thing, you take an action, they take an action. So it's kind of actually fun that majority of the deck is generics. And then, so here's a great example. How this happened to me, I did this to other people. You're playing, you get to that turn 7, and the Vader's coming out. And you're like, Vader's coming out. You just know it's gonna happen. It's coming.
You can hear him breathing as he's walking down the hall.
You know the asthma attack is coming to the table near you. So you're just sitting there waiting, and you're just watching your opponent. Like, all right, epic action. Vader hits the table. And you immediately tap 2 and slap down a land and go, no, screw that guy. And you tap him, and they're like, huh, cool story, bro. So it's really funny because you're sitting on that Leia, and you don't play her until Vader hits the table. But it's so impactful, and it's really thematic because, daughter knows best. Aw. But like, if you had 6 Leias, it wouldn't feel really cool to go, no, right now I'm stopping you from just blowing me off the table. I'm going to like lock you down with a little bit of Leia control. So I don't hate the fact that the generics are generics and the name characters really feel important, because it just feels cool. Like, it emotionally feels like, oh, here's a Chewie. And you're like, yeah, that's what I wanted to see right now. A 3/6 Sentinel that when I attack him untaps. And then, he's hiding behind, like you hide him behind the medical droid, where when the medical droid attacks, it heals something 2 damage, and you're just like, come on. And then you have, like, if you get the Luke combo out, you have Luke who can shield him, the medical droid can heal him, and you just kind of don't get past that Sentinel. So it's like, gonna need a Vader or something really impactful here to deal with this. So
I'm going to call that deck type Rug Hug right off the bat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Old rug hug deck.
Really,
Yeah.
Sentinel is really freaking annoying people. If you can build a wall stall deck, oh Lord, help us all. So annoying. So good. Sentinel is a really good keyword. It's really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
Chewie protected by medical droids and Luke. God, gross.
And
And
so
medical
of
droids
course
are
if you
not unique.
yeah, and if you get that combo kind of thing going and the heroes are very well protected, you're not going to destroy their base, but they may not be destroying your base either. So talk a little
Yes,
bit
yes, they
about
are.
you oh, okay. Well, I was going to
Oh
say
yeah.
talk a little bit about you may have learned more about how you technically can win the game by what we used to call the mill deck, by making your opponent run out of cards.
Oh yes. This did not happen at Gen Con. There was never a point where you ran out of cards. But that new legendary that allows you to mill 6 cards?
6 cards. Yeah.
Yeah,
And heal 5 damage
that's
from your base at the same time.
yeah, that card is going straight into my deck immediately. That is the nuts. I was like, oh, Jeremy gave me a toy. Like it's happening. Mill is a thing. So the
Yeah.
way mill works is if you were to draw a card, you take 3 damage to the base. So unfortunately, mill is not an auto win. Also, if the base is healthy, they can still live for a long time. So
Yeah.
like you need a combo of milling plus keeping their body count low. So it's kind of like flesh and blood. Once they deck out, they can only use whatever is available, and if they don't have many options available, then they just kind of auto lose because they have like one body, no cards in hand, no cards in deck. So you destroy that whatever thing they have, then you just pass. They don't draw 2 cards, take 6, pass to you, rinse, wash, repeat. So mill probably not super likely in this game, unfortunately. If we see more things that mill more cards, yes. But if a legendary mills 6, I'm not feeling too good about that. You are drawing 2 cards per turn, but again, the math just isn't nearly as favorable because, like with Destiny, you only had 30 cards. You drew up to
Right.
5. There were discard. There were ways to get through this game. Probably not as much, unless we see more. But I don't think
Yeah.
so.
And that legendary also is a double vigilance aspect. So you're either paying a lot for it or you are running only one aspect. Well, heroism or villainy plus vigilance.
So that was an interesting conversation, and we can talk about this later if you want. But I was talking with, um, so I talked with Jim Cartwright, who's the number 2 at FFG, and then Jeremy Zorn, who's one of the designers, and we had a really interesting conversation about the base, because if you look at the game mechanically, everything flows really well, and there's something each zone, each card, each resource offers, and then there's the base, which looks kind of bland. And it appeared to me, especially knowing Jeremy, this was deceptive because everything has a place, but I couldn't figure out what the place for the base was. And when we were talking, we hadn't actually seen a double aspect yet at that point. But he was alluding to the fact that essentially the base can be kind of a stopgap where they can use bases to create interesting, powerful cards that either are going to floodgate you into playing certain double aspects like this legendary, or you're going to have to pay a really high price to play really good cards, which you're probably not going to do unless there's some like ramp combo that we don't know about that gets you those extra 2 resources to kind of net neutral out that taxation. So the bases were actually probably one of the most fascinating things about Star Wars Unlimited because, as everyone's alluded to, there's a lot of open area for abilities and effects on the base. But regardless of that, the base actually helps stop broken combos from going off because they're either too expensive or they force you into, hey, you're going to play double blue plus
Mhm.
heroism. So you don't have access to other things unless you're willing to pay for it. So you become a very focused and niche deck, but you're hyper efficient in that color scheme. Or you can do like a 2 color X and Y deck, and you're maybe less efficient, but you have more options. And I was like, It's pretty smart. Very, very smart.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you got to speak to several of the higher ups at FFG and the
Mhm.
game's designers. When you talked to them, what was something you learned that you maybe weren't expecting?
Okay, here's one of my favorite ones. I was talking to Jim Cartwright about the characters, so I'll flash them up here. I'm not trying to flex, not at all. But if you look at the characters on the card, he was talking about snapshots, and this fascinated me. So he was saying when you look at the Vader and Luke, this is a snapshot from the movie where you're on Cloud City, which is one of the bases. Luke is trying to save his friends. He's not yet a Jedi, which on his card he has Force and Rebel. So he hasn't actually become a Jedi Master yet. He ran away from Yoda. He's being kind of a fuss. And he faces Darth Vader and gets just the poop kicked out of him, for lack of better terms. And so
Right, right.
the snapshot we're looking at here is villainy Vader with aggression. He beats him up. Very aggressive.
Yeah,
Very, very accurate. This is heroism Luke. What's the blue aspect?
Vigilance.
vigilance.
Vigilance. So he's vigilant. He wants to protect his friends and his family and his loved ones. He is not command. Not
No.
being very smart. He is not. What is yellow?
Cunning.
Yeah, he's not cunning. He just runs in with his
He's
lightsaber out.
head
Dare
first.
you? Yeah, head first. And he's not aggressive. He's very vigilant. So what fascinated me was as Jim is explaining this, he goes, so let's think about this one. Let's think about Rogue One. Let's think about Cassian at the very start of the movie. What snapshot would you put him in? Is he heroism? Is he a little villainous? Is he command? Is he aggressive? I was like, oh my God. Holy crap. This is amazing. So the most like enlightening thing was whenever we see these characters, they're always going to be a snapshot within the best representation of the character in that scene from that media. So, like, holy cow, you could have. So, we were talking about, like, well, what about like an aggressive Luke? Huh, maybe it's that time where he gets really mad at Vader and he's like mashing his wrist off with his
Yep.
lightsaber, and he's got the unbuttoned jacket and his hair is all frilly and he's really angry. So, like, we could see an aggression Luke, dot, dot, dot. And then they weren't like saying this is a secret or anything, but we're just like I'm not getting inside information. I want to clarify they didn't tell me anything secret, but we're just talking about those aspects and those snapshots. So like Jyn Erso when she's um fighting with Krennic, she's probably in heroism, but like what aspect is she? Is she command? Is she aggression? Like what snapshot is she? And then let's look at the other side of that coin. What does Krennic look like? Obviously, he's a villain, but is he
Hmm.
command? Is he leadership? Like where is he on that spectrum? So I was like, oh man, now it's like insane because there's so many potential options for characters, and you could see some characters switch sides. Like you could potentially you could see a villainous Lando Calrissian.
Of course,
Yeah.
absolutely. I would be a little sad if we don't at some point.
Yeah. And again, like they didn't tell me any of this stuff. They were just like, think of the unlimited potential. And it's like, God dang it. Did you call the Star Wars Unlimited again? They're like, ha 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 lol. Like maybe we're not gonna tell you. But like there is unlimited potential because like let's think of Leia. Where do we put her in command? Probably when she's a general in Endor. We've got her in yellow. Remember yellow again? What's yellow? Cunning.
Cunning.
Yep.
Cutting.
So that's when she's Princess Leia when she's on the blockade runner. So like
Hmm.
where would we put aggression Leia? Where would you guys put her? Like there's a couple places I could think she might fit in the snapshot.
Well, the command Leia, we actually have seen a command Leia as a leader, and she's wearing the Hoth outfit, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Oh, it's that one. I haven't seen that card yet, so that's cool. Because yeah, you could see what's blue vigilance.
Blue is
Yeah.
vigilance.
Yeah, so you could see a blue vigilance Leia, and you could see a yellow or not a yellow cunning,
Red aggression.
red aggression. So it's fascinating
Yeah.
because it's like, oh man, where will we see some of these characters? And then what's even more interesting is there's some characters that don't have any kind of affiliation. So C3PO and R2 don't have a color. They're neutral. They're just heroism. So they can go on any deck, and they're really broken. They're super fun. So for those who don't know, R2 lets you look at the top card of the deck and then put it back, or on the bottom you can scry. But C3PO lets you call the value, the resource value of the top card of your deck, and if you're correct, you get to put it in your hand. And if you have both of them on the field, guess what? You're drawing extra cards every turn. And they're 1/4, so their attack value is terrible, but 4 defense is a lot. So yeah. Oh, and if you put shields on them with Luke, cough, do that. They're really hard to bring down because your opponent doesn't really care about a 1/4. But then when you're drawing all these extra cards, they start to kind of care about you having a 1/4. It's like, oh, super good. But like, here's the thing. They don't have any kind of color representation. They don't have a color pie identity. It's R2 and C3PO. They're everywhere all the time in every movie and every single location. So sure,
Yeah.
they just fit into every deck. Nice. Just nice. Like really good design. Like super, really good thematic and mechanical design. Great job, team. Love it. Absolutely love it. But here's the thing. Now you're going to start thinking about, so I like this movie and I like this character. And in this snapshot, where would I put them on that color pie spectrum of, blue, red, green, yellow? And I was like, it's pretty cool. Because I can think of like 3 Qui-Gon flavors too. Or
Yeah.
Obi-Wan. I was like, ooh, Obi-Wan aggression when he's young and he's fighting against Darth Maul. Dun, dun, dun. It's like, oh, y'all are so smart. Way too smart. Just great.
Well, and we'd have to get a cunning Darth Vader at some point. One of the first
Of course.
descriptors we get of him is he was a cunning warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
so,
was
like,
true from a
would
certain
we
point of
get
view.
him? It's like, which media would he be in, cunning colors? Like, you could pull him from Clone Wars. You could pull him from episode 3 or 4. I mean, I don't know. There's so much.
You could pull him from the
available.
comics, the classic "I'm surrounded by dead men," Fear and Dead Men.
Yeah. I was also
There's a
thinking
lot.
of episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, where he fools all the other separatist leaders into gathering on Mustafar and then just hacks them to pieces because he outwitted them, as it were.
Yeah, we could have a pre-suit Darth Vader, which we
Absolutely.
got in Destiny at one point. So that's a
We did.
possibility.
We did.
One thing that we never got in Destiny that I always wanted, and we could see in Unlimited, is an Imperial Han Solo.
Yes, we could see an Imperial Han Solo. Yes, absolutely. Well, there's so many opportunities. We could indeed see favorite characters on the villainy and the heroism aspect. So it's just fun. I didn't ask, but I'm going to assume we could see like multicolor leaders where they're like A and B. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? But I'm assuming.
I'm guessing not first set though.
Like I said, I didn't ask. They also said like bases could have more or less health, and then they could have more or less features or aspects, or like they didn't say anything in particular, but they were like bases could be anything we want them to be. We just haven't explored that yet. So like I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a base with 2 aspects, or maybe a base has like no aspects, but maybe it's like 45 health, or maybe it has 1 aspect and a really cool ability, but less. I mean, like there's so many things that could happen, and it's fascinating because the base arguably is the least interesting, but potentially one of the more impactful things in the game. I was like,
Right.
pretty cool.
Well, you mentioned that the epic action thing is once per game per card, and the leader obviously has an epic action, but the next most obvious place to put an epic action is the base.
The base. The rebel. I need there to be like the rebel bass, and then someone does like an alt art of like a guy playing on the bass guitar. That'd be super fun.
Yes,
That would be
great.
neat.
Oh, it needs to be Leia with the rebel.
Oh yeah. That'd be super cool.
Yeah, from David Bowie. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
So much potential.
When you got to talk to the designers, did you ask them anything like, "What's your favorite card in the first set?" or "What card did you really like making?" or that kind of thing?
No, we really focused in on the design, the development, the R&D. I'm very interested in like design in terms of card games because I've helped do game designing, I've helped to do playtesting, I've done a lot of like game development as well. So I love talking to people who are in the field and kind of picking their brain, seeing what they think. The other thing was I know a lot of times people in companies are very afraid of content creators because it's not uncommon for people to try and like pull out information about future sets or things you're really not supposed to talk about. And so I've known these guys for a while. So my interest was genuinely in the like the heart and soul of the game because there's so much more about Star Wars Unlimited that hasn't really been talked about that I think they could really capitalize on. So the snapshot is one of my favorite things. Like they've talked about it on stream. It's been mentioned. It's not private, it's not secret. But once we started to really dig into that, like here's how a character could be future designed in a set. Now it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much opportunity and it makes it really interesting to see. Like, do you have that card for Leia where she's in command with the Hoth leader? Because I know they
Yeah.
had also that like a Chewie. I heard of it. I didn't see it. I saw the Han that shoots first. That
Mhm.
is disgusting. He has ambush and first strike. Holy smokes! Oh, I also had a conversation about art. You're gonna love that. Hopefully, we can do it after a break because I got to go potty. But I have an answer to why the art is so divisive. Very interesting. So yeah, we talked about that. So to answer your question, no, I didn't poke around about like favorites. I poked around about, why is this? Why is that? What's the design philosophy? What is up with this? What is up with that? Is this inherently more powerful than that? And it was quite fascinating to hear how they parse the game. Quite interesting.
All right.
Okay,
Well,
cool. Well,
let
we'll
me
of course
let me
discuss that more. Yeah.
let me read to you what Leia and Chewie do, and then perhaps we can take a break. So Leia is the command aspect leader, heroism, obviously. As an action, you can tap her or exhaust her rather to attack with a rebel unit. Then you may attack with another rebel unit.
What? How
Yeah.
much? How
So
much does that
back to back
cost?
action. Just
No,
exhaust her.
that's her front side, as they
That-
say.
yeah.
What?
Yeah. Now, granted, this doesn't bypass any of the other rules for attacks, so they do have to be ready units. They do get
Yeah,
damage back and all, but
but
it is
for
still
one, you
two
get
consecutive attacks.
two.
Uh, then
Oh my gosh.
her
Okay,
epic
okay.
action, you need 5 resources to flip her, and she is a 3/6. And on the other side, she has raid 1, so she gets +1/+0 while attacking. And when she completes an attack, you may attack with another rebel unit.
Ooh.
Yeah, and like I said, she's a 3/6. She has the rebel and official traits. So I actually think that we're going to see this Leia a whole lot with
Hmm.
the other Leia because the cunning
That's
Leia
a
is also a
yeah.
rebel.
That's a very aggressive. Boy,
A
you could
very
do a
aggressive
lot
command
of
card.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage in one burst. Because there's a couple of things that proc off of when you swing, get a bonus. Ooh,
Mhm.
that's gnarly. Okay,
And
I
then,
like
Yeah.
it. And then
and,
Chewie.
all right, so Chewbacca is a vigilance leader.
Okay, so he's in blue.
Heroism.
He's in blue.
He's,
Okay.
he's in blue. Yep. And I had him right here. There he
I'm
is.
I'm straight up playing blue green. Like those are my colors. Those are my things.
Now, I love Chewbacca. His subtitle is Walking Carpet, by the way. So I love that.
Love it.
He's Underworld Wookiee. As much as I love Chewbacca, I think Luke is the better vigilance heroism leader because this Chewbacca is not a rebel. He doesn't have a lot of the traits that we've seen connected to some of the other cards. But as an action, you can exhaust him to play a unit that costs 3 or less from your hand, paying its cost. It gains Sentinel for this phase. So he can make things gain temporary Sentinel.
Oh, that is obscene. Okay, that's actually really, believe it or not, anything with Sentinel is like it's really absurd. So like, say you have a Luke with like 1 health left, using the, like, not a leader Luke, but just some really crazy thing. Having that Sentinel means your opponent has to attack with 2 things, and they may or may not have 2 things, or they might need those 2 things to like win the game, and so now you stalled them out because they have to attack the Sentinel, the whatever you threw out as, you know, a sacrifice piece, and now they have to attack. First of all, they have to attack the Sentinel, then you get an action to respond. Then, if you haven't done anything to stop them, then you have to attack your thing to stop you. Like, one Sentinel disrupts so much tempo. It's not even funny.
Well, so because they have to
yeah.
attack the Sentinel until the Sentinel is gone, right? Like,
Yes, I
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Although this only gives it to them till the end of the turn. So if they or the end of the phase.
Yeah, but think about this: a 1/4 Sentinel R2D2.
Mhm.
Most things on average have like 3 or less attacks, so that's like potentially an attack plus damage spell to get rid of him, or 2 attacks to get rid of him, and you still have actions in between those 2 trades. Oh my gosh, this is so disgusting. That's really
Well, we haven't
good.
gotten to the flip yet.
I don't
Now,
even care what the flip is. That is gross.
you know, that actually might be my conclusion on this too. So it takes 7 to flip him, and he's a 2/9.
Woo!
That 2 is deceptive.
Yeah.
He has Sentinel. He also has Grit.
What is it?
Grit is this unit gets +1/+0 for each damage on it. So
Wookiee Rage!
What?
So
What?
yeah,
Ah!
you will flip him. He probably isn't going to stay out too long because your opponent's going to have to deal with him. But I mean, your opponent has to deal with him. That's good.
Oh, okay, so check this out. You have the healing. I think they're called action cards. I keep calling them spells, but there's a healing card. It's 1 resource for heal 3, and then you have the medical droid. Whenever it attacks, it's like a 1/3. But whenever it attacks, it heals up to 2 damage from a creature. So you can do some dumb jank where you swing in with a bunch of damage, deal a bunch of damage, and then heal it all off. Oh, this is so good. And then, of course, with blue, with vigilance, you have shields. Oh my gosh. Like, it's a weird control color. It's a very defensive tempo aggression or tempo disruption style color, but ooh, Sentinel on the spot. Like, you could just throw in a bunch of like low drops and go, cool. Sentinel per turn. Sentinel per turn.
Yeah.
Sentinel per turn. It's like, stop that, please.
Yeah. And, you know, part of the reason that I think Luke is better probably has to do with the pool of cards that we've seen, because
yeah.
a lot of them deal with the Rebel keyword or the Force keyword, and this Chewbacca has neither. But I'm assuming that there's at least something that deals with Underworld, because both Chewbacca and Han Solo have it. So I'm sure we'll see more things that make this Chewbacca a
Does he have
better
the
option.
heroism aspect as well? He's blue.
Yes.
It's heroism. Okay.
Blue heroism.
Because I was like, man, you could do some dumb stuff if he was neutral. That'd be fun. Well, actually, you want the heroism aspect. But
Yeah,
I mean, like,
yeah,
think
you
about
gotta
it. You
have
could
it, but
put you could put him in with like cunning. Cunning says like you can attack with things right now and get like +3/+0. They have a bounce card that's like it's a 3-drop. You could just bounce a non-leader back to the hand. So like it's really funny when my opponent has that ATST untapped. I'm like, cool. For my action, throw it back in your hand. They're like, ouch.
Cunning also has the other Chewbacca. So
I know, yeah, I know.
you know.
It's great. So you can have the double Sentinel Chewie wall where it's like, I don't like
What's
either
better
of
than 1
these
Wookiee?
things.
2 Wookiees.
2 Wookiees. You have Restore in blue, so you have Yoda. You've got the Arc, 150 or whatever. Blue is really annoying. Oh, you have that 3/7 4-drop that's quite hard to crunch. You also have that Sentinel. It's a 5-drop. I think it's a 4/4. As long as it doesn't have damage, it's got Sentinel. So you could just build like this hyper wall. Your opponent will never get to you.
Yeah.
And of
All right,
course,
well,
we know there's a Luke coming. Have they revealed a unit Luke non-leader yet? Okay,
No,
we
not
know
yet.
he's going to be in the game. There has to be, because we've got Leia, Han, Chewie, R2, and C3PO.
Yeah,
So we've got everyone but Luke as a unit, non-leader.
I would expect both a unit Luke and a leader Han, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
I would
mhm.
be surprised if there was not a leader Han and a unit. I wish the terminology was different because it's like, bleh.
Yeah, although they have not doubled up the same aspect on the same character yet. So I don't know if that's something they're avoiding in the first set.
Base. You
Base
can
set.
double up with the base.
Oh,
So
no.
have-
What I mean is the Chewbacca leader and the Chewbacca unit are two different aspects. The
Right.
Leia leader and the Leia unit are two different aspects.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if they do have a Han leader, he might not be cunning if they're trying to
Correct.
avoid
Yeah.
having both the same.
What range is this first set? Is it episode 3, 4, 5 or 4, 5, 6?
Well, it's got a little bit of Rogue One in it as well, and a little bit of Rebels. And we have seen one card, Vigilance itself, has Clone War era art on it.
Oh, that's right, it does. So, like, we could see General Solo from Endor in green.
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
I don't know about much aggression from Han. I could see him in Vigilance in blue, like when they're about to freeze him in Carbonite.
Well,
He's
I could
he's
see
doing the right thing.
I could see aggression from the first Death Star when he charged at all those stormtroopers and then immediately started running the other direction.
See, and that's the fun thing. The snapshot. Where in the snapshot? Oh yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
But that's the fun thing. You could just be like, snapshot. This part of the movie, this character is doing a thing. What aspect are they in? Good question.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and then when we get back, hopefully Sugi's back teeth will no longer be floating, and we can go over some of the cards that have been revealed since the last time we did one of these episodes, and some of the cards that were revealed in the demo decks at Gen Con. So we'll be right back.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blooded Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our Fandom Flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville Show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Kevin, for that information about other shows here on the Fandom Podcast Network. Okay, so Sugi, at Gen Con, you guys got to see the demo decks, of course. And so there were several cards revealed for the first time on the convention floor. I believe we have most of them at the swudb.com website, and they have been marked with the little word demo over their artwork. I think all of those were the new ones. But of course, we're just going to barrel through all of the cards that have been revealed so far. But we'll skip over ones that we have already talked about on previous episodes. And of course, several of them are pretty self-explanatory. There's not a whole lot of stuff to analyze. But the first one, which I think is probably the most recent card revealed by FFG themselves, not any sort of leak or any sort of tweet or anything like that, but just put up as one of their live streams, is the Relentless, which is Constantine's Folly, as the subtitle there. I'm going to see, while you guys start to dive into what this card has on it, I'm going to see if I can get it to show here on the video part of the podcast. But for those who aren't watching the video and just listening to audio, Nathan, please go ahead and break down the card for us, what it looks like, the symbols, the numbers, etc.
Absolutely. So this is a Command Villainy Star Destroyer. It is an Imperial vehicle, capital ship. So it plays to the space arena. It's got space up there in the top. That's something I'm going to have to keep paying attention to because that's a little small in my opinion. But most of them make sense anyway. If it's a ship, it goes in space. If it's a person, it goes on the ground. The Relentless cost 9, which is, I believe, the highest cost we've seen on any card so far. But it is worth all 9 because it is 8 attack and 8 health. Big card. And the first event played by each opponent each round loses all abilities. So your opponent might have to pay some to play an event that does nothing just to be able to play an event that does something. And in a game where you're drawing only 2 cards around, that's a big investment.
All right, keep talking, guys. I'm going to fiddle with sharing my screen to see if I can show the cards.
Sugi, what are your thoughts? Do you think this will see a lot of play?
No. It's tricky. Oh, there it is. It's all on screen. So, like, here's my thought based on my limited expert knowledge. 9 is only an achievable number if you're building a ramp deck, and you still have to see the ramp tools. So the mulligan in this game is you draw 6. If you don't like your hand, you shuffle everything back in, and then you draw 6 again. So it's not a controlled mulligan, and you could just see dog crap, for lack of better terms. So you're in an awkward place because, say for example, you see 2 ramp tools. In your 6-card hand, you have to send 2 of those to the resource pile. So you really only have 4 cards to play with. And then if the other 2 cards in your hand are not great, you don't necessarily want to lose tempo to try and ramp. You want to try and play a card on turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. So until we see more ramp and more tools to actually get to 9 consistently, I feel like this is going to be one of those like rush decks where you go balls to the wall trying to get the Relentless online, and if you don't, you just lose. So at the current state of affairs, I don't know how much we'll see for this card. If you can get it online, I'm assuming there's other ways to cheat this card out. So if we see those tools, that'll change my opinion. But like right now, I don't think it's probably going to see a significant amount of play, but we'll have to wait and see.
So I note that it is a rare card, and as Sugi said, it feels like something you're really building your deck to get there. And while that game text and the body are very impressive, if I've been taking a beating to get up to 9 resources somehow, I'm not sure if this is going to swing things enough in my favor to make up the difference for me having spent my turns leading up to it. Like, I would at least have wanted it to also have had Sentinel or something like that to help protect what's left of my base at this point in the game. I think
you have to play a long end control game to stall your opponent out, because it comes in tapped, so it doesn't attack unless you have like Mahdi or something that can untap it. Its passive is really what you're playing for on that turn you play it, and then afterwards, if you could swing for 8. You probably won the game. It's a weird snowball kind of card where like you kind of win more, but if you're behind, will it really win you the game? I don't know.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee that your opponent has events that they plan to play when you play this. So, and there's no other immediate effect when you play this. The only thing you get this round is your next event doesn't do much.
And here's the other thing. Don't forget, Leia at 2-drop exists, so you can potentially untap this and get shut down by Leia if your opponent goes first. If you go first, you have the initiative. You probably swing with this ASAP. But then the other problem is, like, say with Vader online, like, do you swing with this or do you swing with the Vader? So the Vader deals 5 damage to one thing and 2 damage to another thing. Because, like, Empire has just so many big, huge thingamabobs that do so much impactful stuff. And Rebels just have all these tools to, like, if for some reason they played a cheap event and then they played that 3-drop that bounces the Relentless back to your hand, like, oh man, what a setback. Like, I got it on the field, I got it, and it goes back to my hand. What? No.
I have waylaid your Star Destroyer.
To be fair, this particular Star Destroyer is from Rebels, and it was often waylaid in pursuit of the Ghost. And never actually caught them. So perhaps that's all part of the clever design. This card looks really impressive, but can easily be played around.
Yeah, don't forget, when it comes into battle, like when it comes into play, you could still play a dud event and then bounce it back to their hand with a 3-drop. Like, this card isn't safe. It's kind of safe.
You have to be really careful too, because when you play Relentless, because if your opponent has already played an event, the next one they play this round is not the first event they played this round.
Yeah. That's a huge no, that's true. It would not have been the first event. So there's all kinds of weird back and forth triggers and abilities and things that make this card not as sexy as it sounds. Like, when I first read it, I was like, oh, that's really cool. Wait a minute. Now you can play around it here and you can play around it here, and Leia isn't an event, and maybe, I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I do like the artwork on this card. This is a beautiful shot of the Star Destroyer flying over. I think that is Lothal, actually, that it's flying over with the clouds in the sky and all that stuff. And this is artwork by Ross Taylor. Sugi, you said before the break you were going to tell us a little bit about the art in the game, and one of the things you found out about why it's sort of its own kind of thing.
Yeah. So this is a fun one. I was talking to Jim Cartwright about it, and I was just really honest. I said, hey, man, I love the game. I'm not a big fan of all the art. What's up with that? And he had a great answer that caught me by surprise. And he was just saying that I didn't get any like insider information or anything, but they specifically had multiple artists design multiple pieces of art in their own unique way. And the team at FFG just kind of decided that they're going to let people fall in love with the art they like. And it's not necessarily, now this is my opinion from what he said, but so it kind of sounded like how do I phrase this? So, like, they created this buffet of artwork, and they're allowing us as the fans to enjoy whatever we like. And if we don't like it, like, you don't like it. So I was telling him, like, all of the vehicles I love. Anything that's not a face, I very much enjoy. So, like, the Relentless is cool, the Snow Speeder is cool, all the space vehicles are cool, the leaders are super cool. But, like, Han Solo, the new one that got revealed while I was at Gen Con, looks like he's got constipation. He was like, he laughed. Chewbacca, not a big fan. Luke, or not Luke. Leia's okay. Admiral Mahdi's okay.
So you haven't seen the blue Luke yet, or blue Chewie yet, have you?
I have seen the blue Chewie. He's okay. He's fine. But then you look at, like, the snow troopers and the stormtroopers, and like, oh my gosh, they look like an anime character. Super cool. And so he was just kind of reinforcing. He goes, well, so, he's an anime fan. I'm an anime fan. So he goes, I like these pieces of art because they, look like exactly what you're saying. They're very anime style. But, some people may not like anime and they like these other characters. He goes, there's people in the studio that he works at FFG that really like the characters and they like the faces. And I was like, okay, it does make more sense now that they, again, going back to the buffet, they just put this massive spread out for people to enjoy, and they didn't necessarily focus on one style or particular theme. So that way everyone has something they can enjoy, not necessarily a specific type of people enjoy the art, if that makes sense. So I thought that actually once he explained that, it was a really wise decision, because there are
Mhm.
cards I like, and there's definitely cards I do not like, and that's kind of what they want. They don't really necessarily want everyone to like everything. They want fans to enjoy what they want and choose to enjoy. So I was like, that's pretty cool. But I mean, like, I want to build a vehicle deck really bad. So, like, vehicle art, super cool. The hero faces, I don't care.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me once more of Magic the Gathering. That's probably for the first decade or so. The art was all over the place in Magic. They let
Yeah.
each individual artist do whatever they were going to do in their own style. And I
Mhm.
used to love artwork by Rebecca Guay
Mhm.
and some of those early artists that other people who played Magic were like, "Oh, this card's picture is so lame. I love the game text, I love the ability, but the picture looks terrible." And I'm just like, "What are you talking about? This picture is beautiful." And you really had an eclectic style of artwork on the table during a game of Magic the Gathering in the 1990s. And I think this is going to feel similar because at first we were like thinking that they had tried to keep the same tone across all the artwork, and they sort of did, but they sort of didn't. Like you were saying, Sugi, some of this stuff, it looks like it comes out of an anime, and some of it looks like it comes out of an old school comic book, and
Yeah.
some of it looks totally different than all of that, you know. So yeah.
And that's
All
kind
right.
of
Well,
fun because each person will collect, enjoy, and gravitate towards the artwork they specifically want. So I can't fault them for that. I think it's a way better move than like, hey, we're only going to do anime style art, which would be great. I would love it. But then they're going to kind of segregate out people who don't like it. And those people may or may not play the game because there's nothing for them to enjoy. So, yeah,
right.
props to the team for making a wide reaching, very inclusive decision for everyone to have a chance versus some people to have a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's go back to the list here. Distant Patroller is also a newer card from the last time that we debated cards here. Nathan, break it down for us.
All right, Distant Patroller is not heroism or villainy, which is very important, but is vigilance. It's a 2/1 fringe vehicle fighter space unit that, when it's defeated, you can give a shield to a vigilance unit. So, definitely something you want to run a lot of vigilance with, maybe even double aspect vigilance. If I recall correctly, this was revealed in the vigilance article. So, that makes sense. You might be running double vigilance if you're running this. But shields, awesome. We've already talked about how awesome shields are. So
Yeah, this once again, it's a space unit, and I love the artwork. It's a beautiful picture of essentially what looks like a Z95 headhunter, but
Mm-hmm.
Nathan, help me remember,
but a,
guys. Do
a painted one,
Z95s
yeah.
have 4 engines, or do they only have 2 engines?
They do. They've got. It looks like it's 2 engines, but it really is 4 because it's a big circular thing over the wings.
Okay, all right. So it has the 4 thrusters here, like an X-wing, but it doesn't have the ability to do the split wing, and it doesn't have 4 laser cannons. And it's painted with red as its sort of squadron markings, if you will. And it's cruising in front of a planetoid with a large ring, a la the planet Saturn, that is now close enough to the vessel that you can see it's made up of all those little tiny asteroids and rocks and ice crystals. Just a beautiful spaceship flying through space, ready to kick some butt, or in this case, be vigilant and defend its home system. This feels way like a way better unit and gonna have way more impact on an average game of Unlimited than the Relentless, I think. Even though it's not a rare, it's an uncommon. But at only cost 2 and 2/1, it's gonna have a big effect because when it dies, like Sugi was saying, you can either crash it into something or you can wait for your opponent to blow it up. And then you can give a shield token to a vigilance unit, and the shield token, huge.
Yeah, it's really awkward because Vader does not want to poke this for. Well, you don't want to poke a thing that gives a shield because then that thing could be bigger than the patroller, and then you get this unfair trade where they crash into you, you take all the damage, and they don't take any damage. And that's a very common ploy with shields is, distant patroller gets destroyed, you put a shield on Luke, Luke swings into you for 4, you don't do anything, he does everything, and then he puts a shield on something else, and you keep propagating the shield spam. So it would be better to deal 1 damage to something with a shield to get rid of the shield, because you want to do the least amount of damage to drop that off, versus, oh, I'm going to swing into the shield with, like, you know, a damage ability that deals like 5 damage. Like, you just wasted so much resource value. So it's a really awkward card because you really don't want to poke it if you can help it. You want to poke the thing with a shield. So the fact that it's also not relegated to heroes or villains, this card is probably going to see play. I can definitely see it in a defensive shield style deck, and I'm really excited to build those because shields are so much better in this game than in Star Wars Destiny. Absolutely much scarier, way better.
Yeah, totally. All right. Nathan, did you want to add anything? I'm ready to move on.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Like you said, we can hit some of these quicker than others.
Yep, we've talked about this card several times already this episode, but Vigilance, I'm going to start calling these the innate cards of their aspects, because that's their subtitle, or subtype, I should say. So it's an event. It's called Vigilance. It has the innate keyword instead of tactic or something like that we've seen on other events. Cost 4, 2 Vigilance symbols required to play it. However, it says choose 2 effects in any order. Discard 6 cards from an opponent's deck. Heal 5 damage from a base. Defeat a unit with 3 or less remaining hit points. Or give a shield token to a unit. Oh my gosh, you guys. This is like Magic the Gathering's... Yeah, absolutely. If not more. It's legendary rarity, of course. These are like Magic the Gathering's... what did we call those in Lorwyn, the
commands.
Jars. Yes, cryptic command and so on and so forth. That you played it and it did 2 things that were super thematic to the color from which it came. So cryptic command, of course, came from blue, much like Vigilance is blue here, and did some very control-y things. This does absolutely control-y things. Discard 6 cards, heal 5, defeat a unit, give a shield token to a unit. These are very, Anyway, Vigilance might not be as much control here as blue is in Magic, but it's got a lot of similar themes, especially the mill here, and just outright removing people and giving shield tokens. The healing would be more of a green thing in Magic, or white, but that's not what we're here to talk about. I love this card, and as we said earlier, it's one of the few cards we've seen so far in the Spirit of Rebellion set that includes artwork from definitely the Clone Wars era, because you have Padawan Anakin, you can tell because he's still got his braid flying out behind him, drawing his lightsaber and igniting it in Padme's apartment during Attack of the Clones, and Obi-Wan with the beard is there behind him, being all, "Wait, Anakin."
This is the first artwork with a humanoid thing that I didn't hate. This looks uber sexy. It's got really great artwork, really great ability. It is definitely going to see play. This card I probably would be willing to pay the 2 resource tax outside of double blue, double vigilance. However, I'm feeling like double vigilance decks are going to be pretty gross based on this, because all 4 of these abilities are stupid. There is no point in the game where 2 of these aren't good. Like healing damage from a base. That's how you win the game. Giving shield tokens. We've already talked about shield tokens. They're great. Those are probably the 2 worst things on this card, honestly. Defeating a unit with 3 or less HP. The fact that it says remaining HP means you could swing into something like, hey, Vader has 8 HP. No, he really only has 5 because this will blow him off the field. And then I'll heal the 5 damage he dealt to my base. So for 4, I'll basically net neutral everything your leader, your big, huge boss thing just did. Take my money, and I can have 2 more of these in the deck? Oh!
Yeah, and there are some cards out there that specifically exclude leaders as units as their targets. This doesn't.
This doesn't.
So you're right. You can get Leader Vader with this.
Here's another thing.
Yeah.
If you play all three of these, you can extend your base from 30 health to 45 health. That is huge. That's a massive extension on your lifespan. I mean, like, there's no point in the game, like, this is very blue in Magic terms. There's no point in any portion of the game you don't want to use any given one of these options. They're all really spicy.
Yeah, yeah. I hope that this is also a spoiler, if you will, that every aspect is going to get one of these innate cards that does choose two. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be
and-
surprised if that wasn't the case.
I even hope that that's the case, though, for heroism and villainy as well.
Because you can't have two of
I don't
those
think
aspects.
so. Yeah.
They have said that they
Now-
are not doing a heroism or villainy base.
So now, when you count up the aspects icons that you control, do you only get to count the ones from leader and base?
Correct.
Yeah.
Or is it cards in play?
No, negative.
Leader and base only.
Okay. Then there probably won't be a heroism and villainy one.
No.
Unless there's some way else coming out that is going to change.
Or they just say, you got to pay the tax on these.
That's true. That could be it. Yeah.
Like
But in
maybe
that case, why
someday
not
in the
just
future.
Make it cost 6. Yeah.
But because at
Interesting.
some point in the future, they could come out with a heroism or villainy base that has some offset that says, this base isn't as good, but it means you get to play heroism or villainy at cost -2.
I'm going to crack a ton of booster boxes for this card. Like, I need, especially if there's like an alternate art version. Ooh.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm expecting that aggression, command, and cunning will all be similar. Require to have the innate trait, choose two of these 4 things that we do really well. And I think all 4 of them are probably going to be the chase cards of the set.
I can see
they'll
that.
all be legendaries. Yeah, yeah. All right,
the fact
cool.
that we have
Okay,
commands in set 1 is dumb. Like, good on you, FFG. Great job giving us really powerful stuff.
Next up, we have a recognizable old wizard. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi following fate. Nathan, take it away.
All right, Obi-Wan Kenobi is a 6-cost blue vigilance heroism ground unit, as one would expect. He is a 4 attack, 6 health Force Jedi with Sentinel, our favorite keyword. And also, something I love to see on Sentinel units, a when defeated trigger. Sentinel means that your opponent is going to have to go after him. And when he's defeated, you get to give 2 experience tokens to another friendly unit. If it's a Force unit, you also get to draw a card. So if you've got
Yoda.
if you've got Yoda out there, if you've got Luke, if you've brought Luke out as your leader and Obi-Wan gets defeated, you can give these to your leader.
Because
that's crazy.
And you draw a card if it's
awesome.
Force unit.
Yes.
He replaces himself.
Use the Force, Luke. Use the Force. Oh, good time. Good time.
Yeah, this guy I could see, especially once we get into more of the prequel era stuff in later expansions, and we get more Force units for the light side because all those Jedi Masters are coming.
Yeah.
I think this guy's value is great now and is going to go up.
Give us a Dash Rendar, please.
Yes, I'm all for Shadows of the Empire cards. All right, moving on because we're gonna be super long in the tooth, but that's okay. This is a very special episode. So next up, we have Lieutenant Chilson showing us that it isn't just heroes that have the whole vigilance thing going on. A little villainy too. Sugi, describe this card for our listeners.
This card is dumb. You shouldn't play it. If you want to have friends, go do something else. So this is a 4-drop. Lieutenant Chilton. Where's he from?
Where are you taking this thing?
Oh, is that him?
That's him.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I didn't know he was in there. So it's a unique character. You can only have one of these on the board. The subtext is Death Star Prison Warden. You have the blue and black iconography. 2 attack, 2 health. Keywords are Imperial and Official. The Sentinel keyword, again, as we love, which states units in this area can't attack your non-Sentinel units or your base. And then he has a when played or ETB, enter the battlefield ability, reveal up to 4 blue cards from your hand. For each card revealed this way, give an experience token to this unit. Ooh, nasty! That is gross.
Yeah, so in the right deck, this guy's a 6/6.
I don't think
Yeah.
man, you'd have to go way late. I feel like you want to play him on turn. You want to play him on turn 2, turn 3, because you'd have the 4th resource. You'd probably have 2 or 3 cards in your hand after dropping him. So on average, he's probably a 4/4. But still,
Either way,
not
it's
bad.
still pretty good for a Sentinel. Yeah. And he's going to fit right into a Director Critic deck, and we'll talk about Critic some more in a few minutes when we get to his card. So yeah, I love the idea that you're going to have Imperial officers all sort of working together to be this cadre of annoying evil with vigilance and Sentinel and villainy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Up next, the big bad himself, Emperor Palpatine.
I'm sorry, this art looks so stupid.
This art is a little goofy. He definitely has a little bit of a Family Guy Blue Harvest feel to him. Oh my gosh, he's crying. He's still upset about Edamame or whatever her name is.
What the heck is an aluminum falcon?
Yes, exactly. So he is an 8-drop rare ground unit. Emperor Palpatine, master of the dark side. He requires aggression and villainy, and he's got a 6 attack, 6 health. His keywords are, deep breath, Force, Imperial, Sith, and Official. And he has a new keyword that we haven't talked about much, but Overwhelm. When attacking an enemy unit, deal excess damage to the opponent's base. So for your Magic players out there, this is trample. So if you block Palpatine with your Rebel Trooper, you're probably still going to be taking it on the chin because that guy isn't going to do much. And then he also has
games.
Yeah, Overwhelm seems really strong. And he has an interplay ability. When played, deal 6 damage, divided as you choose among enemy units. Because Palpatine is all like, now you will die, young Skywalker. Oh, and you too. And you too.
Yeah. So the thing is, you really want to have a Sentinel with a shield so that Palpatine can't overwhelm because everything's prevented and then none of it goes to the base. But when you play him, you get rid of a bunch of shields. Every shield you see over there, like one to that guy, one to that guy, one for you get a damage, and you get a damage, and you get a damage.
Yeah, Nathan, you want to double shield Chewie before I play Palpatine. That's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Here's another scary thing. Luke leader is a 4/7. So if you have 9 resources, you play Palpatine, you put 6 into Luke, and then you use Vader's ping damage to kill him off.
Look, if you have both Dark Lords of the Sith out there,
you
know
that's
no
I'm not
good
even mad, bro. That's pretty amazing. It's like I'm not even mad, bro. That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
It's thematic, but it hurts.
Yeah, Palpatine is a rare, thank goodness. So we'll see how much of a issue he is, and whether we'll see whether we're correct about him really impacting the game. Suki, did Palpatine show up in any of the demo decks, or he wasn't?
No, I would have played him immediately if I could have. He'll see play.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right, moving on. We've got the aforementioned Han Solo reluctant hero. Nathan, take it away.
His face.
Yes. All right. So we have a cunning heroism ground unit with the underworld trait. So again, I think something's going to come of that. He has ambush. So after you play this unit, you can ready him and attack an enemy unit. So if you've played Hearthstone, it's like Rush. You can attack units, but you can't attack the base with him this way. That said, you really want to be attacking units with Han anyway, because when he's attacking, he gets to shoot first. He deals his combat damage before the defender, which means if you take them out, Greedo's not there to. Oh my gosh, we have to get a Greedo with a when defeated trigger. That's required now. So he costs. This guy costs 7, but the real cost is playing somebody with this face.
Just draw like little curly mustaches on with a Sharpie. Give him a little little facial hair. What's funny is he can
Dude.
kill the Emperor because he has first strike.
Yes, he does. I shoot the Emperor first.
Yeah, I
But-
shoot the Emperor.
But if he's in play when your opponent plays the Emperor and he doesn't have any shields, I deal 6 damage
Boink.
divided how I
Yeah.
choose, all to Han Solo.
Yep.
Yeah. You guys are always cracking on the art, and I kind of agree on Han's picture here. It's not great. But the image alter market in Star Wars Unlimited is going to be huge.
Yes, it is.
They'll probably make a ruling like they did with Magic the Gathering that you can alter the artwork as long as you don't alter any of the rest of the card, which I would not be surprised to see at all. All right, moving on. The TIE Advanced, which we also hadn't talked about during our last analysis.
I did play this card.
Okay, go. Take it away then.
It's dumb. It's a space unit. It is 4 resources with villainy, no color aspect. 3 attack, 2 HP. Keywords are Imperial, Vehicle Fighter. When played, ETB, give 2 experience tokens to another friendly Imperial unit. And boy howdy, if you thought a 5-7 or a 5-8 when it was 5-8 Vader was scary, how would you feel if he was a 7-10?
Oh,
Ye gods.
yeah.
I do like that he is the TIE Advanced here is almost a dark mirror of the Rebel Squad or Wing Leader for the Rebels. The X-Wing that when it shows up hands out experience tokens to another friendly Rebel unit. But if I remember correctly, Wing Leader cost 1 less and is a little bit smaller, I think.
It's a 2-1, so it dies pretty quick.
Yeah.
But having
but it is cheaper
a 5-10 Vader, not great. Or you could have, I think Probe Droid's a 3-2, so you could turn into a 5-4. Like, there's some dumb things the TIE Advanced can do. It's gross. It's very gross. Very good.
Now, as much as we cracked
artwork is awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say, as much as we cracked on the Han Solo artwork, I love
Ballin'.
the villainy only spaceships.
Look at that object source sliding where they're like shooting the lasers in that little green glow. Like, killer. This artwork is awesome. Good job, FOG.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job.
Eslam Aboshady. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yeah. But you will play this card. You will see this card played. Very good. Very, very good.
All right. So we now also have coming up another vigilance only space unit, the System Patrol Craft. Now this is some cool spaceship artwork as well. 4 cost, 1 vigilance symbol only. So definitely an all blue card. The keywords are vehicle and fighter. And it has 3 attack, 4 health, and it has Sentinel. And this is a common card. The Vigilance deck is looking strong, you guys. You can't attack my base, and I'll be able to attack yours because you can't kill off my guys because everybody has Sentinel. Do.
Yeah, so a lot of the villainy starfighter and spacecraft generally are bigger on attack than defense. So it's like 3-2. 2-1, stuff like that. So this, on average, unless they use removal pieces, is a 2-for-1 trade. Generally, they swing 2 bodies into it, and it takes out 2 things. So like that TIE Advanced we just saw, it was a 3-2. So if it swings into this, it goes, and the System Patrol Craft stays. So that's a pretty good tool to slow the opponent down if they're spamming out a bunch of spacecraft. Slap a System Patrol Craft down, and it really, really chews up a lot of their resources.
Yeah,
Very good
I
card.
dig it. Yeah. All right. Next up, the medical droid that Sugi's been talking about.
This card breaks you games open, baby.
Yeah, all right. So break it down for us, Sugi, and tell us why you love it so much.
It's stupid simple. It's a 1-drop in blue ground droid or ground unit. It's a 1 attack, 3 HP droid, whatever. On attack, you may heal 2 damage from another unit. So you swing into the base, heal 2 damage. It's really simple, really stupid simple. There's only 1 in the demo deck, but if you can run 3 of these, you can get 6 health healed. What the heck? That's obscene, and it's a common. So yeah, I've used this to swing into literally anything just to heal my Luke, heal my Chewie, and put them out of lethal range. And then my opponent has to allocate another attack, another action, another damage ability just to take them off the board. Like, this one card can win you trades if you sequenced properly. Absolutely gross. Is it like, OP god tier? No, but it's really, really, really good. It's very good.
Yeah,
Play
he's
it.
a utility card for sure. You play him on the table, look at your opponent and say, good luck, sir.
This is a fun card to put a shield on with Luke's ability, because the opponent's just like, seriously? You're like, yeah, pretty much.
That's great. Nathan, thoughts on 2-1B?
Well, I needed to double check Luke. So on attack, he gives another unit the shield token.
Yep. He doesn't trigger on play because he's not a heroism. But if you have Leader Luke out, you can keep him alive so long, because you just keep healing him over and over, and then Luke puts the shield on the surgical droid. You just have this loop of heal, shield, heal, shield, heal, shield.
Yeah, so you do have to get Luke out as the unit first.
Correct.
That action doesn't work.
But the surgical droid works great on like your sentinels, like Chewie. All your sentinels are like 4 or 5 in the butt. So your opponent swings in. It's like, cool, my surgical droid attacks, and they take 2 damage off. You're like, oh, great. Cool.
Speaking of Chewie, Scott, let's go ahead and go to the next one.
Indeed, it is the leader version of Chewbacca. So yeah, Nathan, please, by all means, describe your favorite character.
Ugh.
So this is the ugliest art in the set so far. Apologies, Chewbacca. The face.
Oh, this is Eslam as
terrible.
well. We love the vehicle, but hate the character.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So we've already done kind of a breakdown of him so far, but mentioning the 2-1B droid, I think that will be great with this Chewbacca, especially on the flip side where he's got Sentinel and he's got the grit that gives him +1/+0 for each damage on him. He wants to have damage, but not so much damage that he dies. So if you time the 2-1B correctly to heal the damage so that your opponent doesn't get to kill him, that will be wonderful.
You know what's so sad is that that Han Solo in the background looks beautiful. So sexy.
I know.
It's like, ooh, I want a piece of
this-
art with that Han Solo, but not this Chewbacca.
I'm getting a serious Shaggy and Scooby vibe from that Han Solo
Like
and this
Zoinks
Chewbacca
Chewie.
pose.
Yeah.
Zoinks Chewie! Vader's coming around the corner. Yeah. Anyway, I'm excited to and this is a common, by the way. This leader version of Chewbacca is a common. So
I'll
I'm
play this
excited
card.
to see Nathan playing a Chewbacca deck someday soon.
Yeah, I think all the leaders so far have been common
Or starter.
or starter. And I'm thinking that's because we speculated that they may have a leader and a base in every pack.
Right.
I think that's likely the case, and that all the leaders will be common, because you don't want to make the cards that you have to play the game rares. That's one thing in the Star Wars CCG that Decipher did that I always hated, when they made objectives and like you had to deploy these certain things at the start of the game, but all those things were rare. Like, it's so hard to just get to be able to play that deck, much less a good version of that deck.
Mm-hmm.
So I
This
love
card's
that.
This card's
Yeah.
great.
Next up, we've got the Snowspeeder, a 5-cost heroism ground unit, only 1 heroism icon. Really fun piece of artwork. Looks very old school 1980s Star Wars Marvel comics. It's got Rebel, Vehicle, and Speeder as keywords. 3 attack, 6 health, ambush. So after you play this unit, it may ready and attack an enemy unit. And on attack, exhaust an enemy vehicle ground unit. Tie up them walkers, baby. I love it. I'm going to turn my speeder sideways to wrap the tow cable around the legs of your whatever the heck that mechanical dinosaur is. And I'm going to blow some stuff up with my 3 attack, and I'm going to hang out pretty long because I have 6 health. This card is made of wind, and it's a common. I can't wait to use this.
It's fun. You'll love it.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Speaking of vehicles that need to get tied up, it's the ATST. Nathan, tell us what it does.
All right, so this is a villainy only aspect, 6 cost, so a fairly beefy unit here. 6 attack, and 7 health. So yeah, you can run your Rebel Snowspeeder straight into my ATST, but it will die. Of course, I do have Overwhelm on my ATST, so if I kill your lowly Ewok that only has 1 or 2 health, I get to also damage your base and give you emotional damage as you cry about the murdered Ewok.
Emotional damage.
Yo, no.
This is an Imperial vehicle walker. I did hear some stories from Gen Con about some games that were won on the back of waylaying an ATST. So it's got some good stats, but you have to be careful about that spot removal.
That's great.
This is a great
Sugi,
target
did you get to play one?
I did. I played one and I played against one. Leia is a great counter to this card, as is the card that bounces non-leaders back to the hand. Wink.
Yep.
Yeah, I did lose a game where my opponent got both of them out on me, and there was nothing I could do. 14 health. Can't do it, baby. It's just not a thing.
Yeah. All right,
Not a
moving
thing.
on. We have the unit version of Chewbacca. So he's a 5. You know what, Nathan? Go ahead. I'll let you. It's Chewie again.
Yes,
so.
it's true. All right.
Nope. Sorry. English. Common, please. Common.
All right.
Arabic.
Fine. So this is a cunning version of Chewbacca, 5 cost, also heroism. He's only a 3/6, and he doesn't have grit, but he does have Sentinel. And when he is attacked, you get to ready him. And
That's awesome.
that is active the turn you play him. So you play him, your opponent's like, well, I got to attack. They attack Chewbacca. You're like, cool. Now I get to attack with my Chewbacca. So
He also procs Luke's ability to get a shield. Cough.
Mm-hmm. Now, one criticism I have is for SWUDB. Wookiee has 2 E's, guys. Get this corrected. He did it on the other Wookiee, too.
Oh, busted spelling errors. Come on, SWUDB.
Yeah, but that's not FFG. That's this website. So
that is true. So now,
good on FFG. They got it spelled right.
Artwork criticism. I enjoyed this picture of Chewie much better than the leader Chewie.
Yes,
Well, yeah,
totally agree.
yeah.
100%.
It actually looks better in real life too.
Yeah,
this is a fun Chewie to play. But oh man, if you give him the right support with the healing droid, the medical droid, and Luke giving shields, yeah, he kind of doesn't die, and it's really annoying.
Wow.
Because you attack him, the shield falls off, and he readies. Then he attacks you. Then the droid heals him. Then you attack him and untap him. Then Luke gives him a shield, and he attacks you again. And you just don't live.
And that is how you play this game. You just don't live.
You are very unaliving at this point. You're just like, oh, God,
very
leave me alone.
unaliving. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he does
good
rip
times.
people's arms out of their sockets.
If you build a support network for this Chewbacca, it is so hard to take him down. That 6 health is really deceptive. Like 5 would have probably been more fair, but 6, you have to put a lot more into him. And then with shields and healing, it's just like, God, kill me.
Now, this Chewbacca also does not have the Rebel keyword, much like the leader Chewbacca and Han Solo. Looking at the artwork, I think this is intended to be from the Solo movie.
I think so too.
Well, maybe, but there's an X-wing flying by in the top right corner, which doesn't disprove. It doesn't disprove your theory. It just makes it harder for me to place.
Where would it be then?
Yeah, because I thought this was them like approaching the train or on the train.
The other thing that makes me think it's not from Solo is Chewie's holding his bowcaster, and if I remember correctly, he didn't have that weapon in the Solo
at that
film.
time.
Yeah, that's true.
Ignore that then. It just looks somewhat similar to the train scene. But this is apparently before he joined the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he certainly has the bowcaster before he joins the Rebels. But
this card's good.
Gets it. See, this card's great. Yeah. Sorry, we're gonna get way off track here. All right. Next up, Vigilant Honor Guards. Sugi, hit it.
Here's another reason why the medical droid is really good. It's a 5-drop in heroism and blue. It's a ground unit, 4 attack, 6 health, rebel keyword. When this unit is undamaged, it gains Sentinel. So you just sit there and go, hey, here's my 4/6. If you swing into it, you die. And then you heal it. Or if you're really ruthless, you play it and then you shield it with Luke. So they have to hit it twice before it stops having Sentinel. And then you can still use the card that costs 1 resource and heals 3 damage from unit or base. Then you can use the healing off of the medical droid. This card won me games because I just kept it healthy, and 4 attack is gruesome. Even the like a Vader, that's half of his health. Ugh! And if you can get Luke online as a leader and he swings and then puts a shield on this, guess who they're not attacking? Luke. Guess what they are attacking? This. And then when the shield pops off, you just sit there and let him swing again, and then you heal it. And then you go to the next turn and do it all over again. Your opponent's just like, please kill me now. I'm unaliving over here.
I love the idea that cards can gain new abilities while undamaged, because even if this is the only card in the first set that has that sort of ability, it makes that medical droid and the repair card even more important, because that's cool to be like, yes, I healed and I turned back on my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, repair wasn't all that great until this card.
Yeah, totally. All right, moving on. We have the Fleet Lieutenant. He costs 3. He's a ground unit. He's single heroism icon. He's got Rebel and Trooper, 3 attack, 3 health. When played, you may attack with a unit. If it's a Rebel unit, it gets +2 attack and +0 hit points for this attack. Woody McWooderson. Also, decent artwork for a Rebel Trooper, a Fleet Trooper with the backwards eggshell helmet and the classic, I call it a diamond-tipped blaster pistol, because those little white triangle tips look like diamonds to me when I was a kid. And he's basically blasting away, and he's a decent attack stick at 3 for a 3/3, but man, his when-played ability, brutal.
It also works on space units because it just says a unit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, got to be a Rebel. Yeah,
and I think this is going to come.
It can be any unit you can attack with. Rebels just get the boost.
Oh, so right.
You could swing with a space unit, even though you played a ground unit. Now, in the starter decks, in the demo decks, everything had the Rebel keyword minus Chewie, so he procced basically everything. But yeah, it wasn't uncommon to play a Fleet Lieutenant and then swing with my 4/2 X-Wing. You're like, what? Hold up now. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I think he's going to combo really well with that Leia.
He will.
You'll be getting priority quite often when you're attacking with all your stuff that quickly.
Yeah.
You have to be careful, though, because if you blow through all your actions, your opponent can set up some really disgusting combos you can't stop.
Yeah. All right,
so
moving on.
Back and forth of this game.
Yeah. We've talked about 3PO and R2D2 before. So let's move on to Galactic Ambition. I was wrong. This is an innate. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm not wrong. This is the villainy innate.
Oh, it's 7.
I think
that
you're
makes
right.
sense. Yeah, that is right. That is the villainy innate.
Yeah, and it's not a legendary. It's a rare because it's not quite as impactful because you don't get to choose 2 things.
Here's how you cheat out that 9-drop. There you go. You see, you just pay 2 less.
Yeah, I don't think that's worth it, man. Because you pay 2 less and take 9 damage on your base.
So?
Well, I hope you had at least 10 health left.
So? I'll go out on my own terms, you rebel scum. I'll kill myself, you loser, you teenagers,
you didn't beat me. I beat myself.
I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you kids and that meddling dog.
And that meddling Wookiee. You can't fire me. I quit. So anyway, cost 7, single villainy icon required. Galactic Ambition, innate. Play a non-heroism unit from your hand for free. Deal damage to your base equal to its cost. The picture is a really great, almost painting quality version of the Death Star. So yeah, I dig it. Actually, perhaps Death Star 2, because I see the Executor back there. So maybe this is supposed to be Death Star 2.
Don't forget, there's
You know-
probably if there's healing for heroism, there's probably healing in villainy.
Yeah.
And maybe shields too. If
Yeah.
you
Well,
can
you can't shield your
base.
base. That would be
Oh.
obscene. Ooh, I wonder if you could shield your.
I don't know that
Uh-oh.
we've seen anything that does it yet, but there's
Oh,
no
that's
reason
a
that they couldn't.
spicy take.
Okay, hold on. But see, I'm thinking that there might be a card that could shield your base, because if this is a picture of the Death Star 2 and it's leading us toward that combo, what did the Death Star 2 famously have?
Yep.
A
Shield
jamming
generator.
device
True.
Bathrooms.
You are
That-
correct.
that kept Lando from realizing the shield is still up.
That's right. The
That's
shield.
a skill issue.
What if
That's
What
a
if
skill
there-
issue, and you know it.
what if there is a card that is the shield projector on indoor that lets you put a shield on your base? Because all of the shield generators we've
Please.
seen,
Please
say
be a
units.
thing.
but if there is a card that lets you do shield your base that represents the indoor bunker shield, thing, oh my gosh, that'd be so awesome. And then that
And
Like a
makes this
0.5,
And
put a
you're the
shield on it.
makes them-
heroism. The heroism side could be the Hoth energy shield.
oh my gosh, you guys.
Oh,
And that makes this
wow.
super thematic combo by having a picture of the Death Star 2, and the only way to really use it is to use it while your base has a shield, so you don't have to worry about that damage.
We need to wrap this up so I can go watch Star Wars movies. I'm getting really excited now. You guys, you're terrible. Oh, that's the Madi combo, the Force choke.
Okay, so go ahead, Suki. Up next, Admiral Mati.
All right, so this is probably going to be one of the worst pieces of art and one of the best combo pieces of the game. It's a 2-drop, villainy only, ground unit, 1 attack, 1 health, Imperial, official, whatever. When defeated, you may ready any villainy unit, including but not limited to Lord Vader, womp womp. So you can crash him into something to untap. You can force choke him to untap. I wish you could kill himself to untap. Like he's just terrible, but he's a combo enabler. Super fun card. Probably going to see competitive play, honestly. He's so easy to get out.
Yeah,
If you set him up properly, you can do some really obscene combos with him, and he's cheap enough where you could get him out with. So Vader needs 7 resources, so you could play a pretty significant 4 or 5 drop, or you could play a 4 drop, proc Vader's ability, deal 1 damage to the base, deal 1 damage to a thing, play Admiral Madi. Then you can play Vader with his epic action. You could swing with Vader. Then you can deal 2 damage to Madi to untap Vader and get the explosive 10 damage out of nowhere combo. Super good.
yeah, I dig it. I can't wait to do combos with Admiral Mati. Good times, good times.
Artwork looks
All
like
right,
dog
we-
poo.
It does. We talked about
Waylay.
Waylay
This
earlier.
card's stupid.
uh,
Stupid.
This is the 3-drop event Waylay trick. It is the cunning singleton event that we've seen so far. The picture is of Han, Leia, and Chewie getting captured on Endor. Return a non-leader unit to its owner's hand. That's a nice Star Destroyer. Be a shame if something happened to it.
What
And-
in the world
oh,
could
man.
that be?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that one time
yeah.
I played an ATST and then all of a sudden it returned to my hand for some reason. I was like, huh, this feels bad.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Don't
Unsummoning it.
send this card to the resource pile, folks, please.
No.
I saw someone do it and I was like, you could have won the game if you hadn't have done that. I'm sorry. And I proceeded to beat them relentlessly with my ATST. And Vader. ATST and Vader, very dumb. Very dumb. Keep this card.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, coming up next, we got the card that Suki is in love with here, the Force Choke.
The Force Strangle.
2-cost. Yes, 2-cost event, aggression and villainy. Force Choke, a Force event. If you control a Force unit, this event costs 1 less resource to play. Deal 5 damage to a non-vehicle unit. That unit's controller draws a card.
Is
dig it.
Admiral
I love
Madi
it.
a vehicle? He is not.
He
No,
is
he
not.
isn't.
He's a flesh bag.
Yeah. He is a meat bag.
He's a
All
meat
right,
bag,
so-
as Great Bender would say.
Yep. Okay, we've talked about the First Legion Snowtrooper before.
This card's broken.
Oh no, I've lost my ability to show this.
Yeah,
tab.
It's not
it-
just you.
Even the website knows that this card is obscene.
Yeah. bummer.
Okay.
I think
Can
we
you- oh,
we
did
cra-
you lose
we
it
crushed them.
completely? Oh no.
We-
Okay.
we-
If you could bring it up, I could show you a combo where you can make that card a 6/2 with trample. Holy poo-poos. That is not fun. I had that happen to me twice. I was like, wait, what? Okay.
All right, we've got him back. Okay, so he costs 2. You have to have villainy and aggression. He's a 2/3 Imperial Trooper. Pretty good artwork, like Suki said. If they're stormtroopers and whatnot, they look cool. While attacking a damaged unit, this unit gets +2/+0 and gains overwhelmed. Overwhelm.
So if you go back a page, so we can see this trooper next to the
Snowtrooper lieutenant.
Okay, so here's the really dirty combo. So the lieutenant says when played, you can attack with a unit. If it's an Imperial unit, it gets +2/+0 for this attack. So scoot back real fast. So I actually did this to someone and had it done to myself, and it will happen because it's just too good. So you have the 1st Legion Stormtrooper played in a prior turn and protect it somehow. Normally people don't do much on turn 2, and you can get this combo off on turn 3. So you ready everything up, you play the Stormtrooper Lieutenant, and if you have anything on the opponent's side of the board that has damage, which you could have procced with Vader's ability the turn prior on turn 3 or turn 4, you're swinging with a 6/3 trample 1st Legion Stormtrooper.
Whoa. Wow, that is ice cold. Oh, I get it.
Boo!
Oh,
Yeah.
terrible.
Okay.
It's
Next up, Nathan's favorite Imperial card so far, the Super
Yes,
Laser
the
Technician.
Super Laser Technician is a command villainy card, 2/1, but I don't care how much health he has. Actually, I'm glad he only has 1 health, because as we all know, Super Laser Technicians are the guys who fall into the green stuff and die. This is an old joke that Scott and I have from the Star Wars CCG from Decipher, where if you failed your commence primary ignition check and you had a Death Star technician on the Death Star, you had to kill one of them. And we always tried to figure out why that was. And we figured, well, they fall into the green stuff.
Yeah.
Like he gets hit by the laser.
Because you see him standing right next to the power conduit for the freaking super laser. And of course, since the Empire is evil, there's no such thing as OSHA. And there are no safety rails in Imperial locations. So
I noticed there's no safety rails. Yeah. Well, when he falls into this stuff and dies, he gets to get put into your resource row and readied. Yeah, so this is good. This is really good. And you know what? This is another guy that you can force choke, or you can kill off with your own Vader to get an extra resource. This is going to help you ramp into so many things. So many things. This might be one of the more valuable common cards in the set. I think it's going to be.
This is
$1.50.
Yeah, it's going to be a.
I feel.
Hey, it's a common card.
I'll give you $1.50 for this Super Laser Technician.
You're about
listen.
tree
No. Tree fitty. Inflation,
Tree
fitty.
Tree fitty. Oh, okay.
Anywho,
we take a Disney Lorcana card in trade.
Yes, I probably would. This is a green.
No.
This is Green Villainy answer to Blue Heroism's 2-1B droid there. Or is 2-1B not even two aspects? He's one aspect, isn't he?
He's one aspect.
He is only one aspect. Yeah.
He can go into any deck.
Yeah,
He's in any blue.
Never mind.
Which means
this guy's still good though.
Which means I could run both of them in the same deck if I have a blue leader and a green base, or vice versa.
Well, we already have a green base. It's the trench. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, we will have those. I mean, if I am playing them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm telling you, that droid is going to see play. It's too good. It's a 1-drop for a 1/3
That means
healer.
you could run Director Krennic as your leader with the trench base to have this guy and 2-1B in your deck.
Yes.
Yes, you
and
can.
Then you could be out of resources, have the 2-1B in your hand. This guy dies, and you can play the 2-1B.
Yes, you can.
Beautiful.
Suddenly you have a resource.
All right, so we've got a Rebel Pathfinder coming up, which has a new keyword, or new ability, I should say. He's a 2-cost heroism unit that's ground, a Rebel Trooper, 2 attack, 3 health, and he has Saboteur. When this unit attacks, ignore Sentinel and defeat the defender's shields. Woot! An ability that actually does 2 different things. It ignores Sentinels and defeats the defender's shields. So that's pretty great. And the way this is worded in the parenthetical text does not yet obviate the idea of shielded bases.
Correct.
Yep.
You can defeat. Yeah, because it says the defender's shields, not the unit defender's shields.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
Oh.
could get bases.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's pretty cool. And this artwork's not too bad. I like this artwork for a Rebel Pathfinder out in the jungle. Big old scoped up blaster rifle ready to cause problems for the Empire without them ever even knowing he was there.
All I got to say is if they do artwork like this for my Rebels characters, I'll be really upset.
I think this one looks halfway decent. It's not going to be my
know.
favorite card in the set.
This guy's got the smirk. He's like, about to kill this mother flipper. Watch him die. Look at what kind of smirk is he? He's like, is he happy? Is he sad? Is he half asleep? Is it early? Did he forget his morning coffee?
Did he forget his morning coffee? Okay, anyway,
Unclear.
carrying on.
Unclear.
Unclear. Indication is negative. Ask again later. We have talked about the Aztec Liberator gunship before. Nice space unit with ambush.
Beep.
I do want to bring up one thing on that. Azatuk was originally George Lucas's name for Chewbacca's father.
Whoa.
Wow, cool.
So
That's a nice deep cut there, Nathan.
yeah, this is a Wookiee Liberator gunship. We saw them. We saw them for the first time in Rebels, but they are named after after Chewbacca's father.
Yeah,
Well,
good times.
In our universe, they are in the Star Wars universe. That ended up not being Chewbacca's father's name. But,
Right. All right, moving on. We've got the Emperor's Royal Guard. It's a 3-drop ground unit. Requires command and villainy. It's an Imperial, 3 attack, 4 health. While you control an official unit, this unit gains Sentinel. And also, while you control Emperor Palpatine as a leader or as a unit, this unit gets +1 health. This is a rare drop, and I think rightfully so. In the right deck, this guy's going to be huge for 3 cost.
Wow, that's pretty spicy. You get a 3/5 for 3
with Sentinel, if your
with
leader is
Sentinel.
Palpatine. Yeah.
yeah,
Although
which we've
he's
not
only-
seen a Palpatine leader yet, but this really makes sense that we would have a command Palpatine as a leader.
I'm in.
Yeah,
Take
and-
my money.
but-
Take my all.
But note that he only gains Sentinel. The Royal Guard gains Sentinel if you have an official unit. So you've got to have at least one other unit in play for this to be happening.
Not a
Yeah.
problem, Captain. Not a
which-
problem.
Might be the deployed Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could also have Tarkin. He's an official. Like, there's a million
Yeah, that's
officials
true.
in those colors. That's not not
Ad-
hard.
Admiral Mati, for example.
Yeah, screw
Yeah,
that guy.
Exactly.
He's gonna
Yeah.
fall and trip on his own
While
self.
he's still alive.
That man is the banana peel of Mario Kart. He's just gonna
Okay.
trip and fall.
All right, Sugi, talk about this card that you love / hate.
Okay, so I called that this card was going to be good. It is good. It's obscene. Open Fire is a 3-drop aggression tactic, simple ability, deal 4 damage to a unit. Guess what? Most units early game do not have more than 4 health, and they die. Guess what? Luke also only has 7 health, so you can crash a 3/1 Stormtrooper into him, and then open fire. Or Vader, who is a 5/8, you can crash a 4 whatever thing into him and then blow him up with open fire. This card doesn't succumb to villainy or heroism. It can go into any red deck. And 3 resources for 4 damage wins games. You can take out
Yeah.
Sentinel pieces. Like, I did that to Chewie. I swung into Chewie with whatever, dealt 2 damage. They didn't shield him up. I was like, all right, eat a fat one, you little rug turd. And he was super dead.
I'm gonna
the
need
blood and
alternate. I'm gonna need alternate image of a bunch of battle droids in their tanks on Naboo. Open fire, pew pew pew
yeah.
pew, and they're blasting the Naboo shield. You know, it's gonna be so great.
Yeah, this card is a removal spell. If you time it right,
Yeah.
it's really good. And if you can't, this extends your range of removal. So if you have like those 6/7 ATSTs, they're really 6/3 ATSTs. All you have to do is put 3 damage into them, and then you can open fire. So it gets you where you need to go very easily. So yeah, this one in red with Darth Vader is disgusting, especially since he can ping 1 damage, and if he's on the board, he can proc 2 damage with his ability. So it's not uncommon to see things with 5 health drop to Vader swings to 5 damage to your base, deals 2 damage to a thing, and then you play open fire and just take him off the board. Nice knowing you. But, okay.
Yeah, good times, good times. All right, moving on. We've got Director Krennic, the leader version of Krennic. His front side here is each friendly damaged unit gets +1/+0, and he is the Vigilance Villainy leader of Krennic, which is just awesome. His epic action, much like Leia's, cost 5 to deploy him, and once you get him deployed, I'm gonna have to go back to the other screen. I think I can't get his other side to show. Once you get him deployed, he's a 2/7. And he has Restore 2. When this unit attacks, heal 2 damage from your base. Each friendly damage unit still gets the +1/+0 while Krennic is a unit. But Restore on a villainy card? Come on, that's cool.
Don't forget, you could have a base with double vigilance, and then you have access to that impact card. Is it impact? Is that what it's called?
Innate.
Innate. Yeah,
the innate
the
vigilance
command.
card, yeah.
Yeah, the vigilance command card. So not only can he restore 2, but you could heal 5 from the base. So you could get 7 off of it in 1 turn. So good. Now you have to hide him behind a sentinel. Restore is only good if you can protect the restore character. Unfortunately, they're super vulnerable otherwise, and you may or may not ever get that restore 2 off without some kind of ability. Now, the leader does come into play untapped, so you can do something with them immediately, but 2/7's not big enough to really get more than 1, maybe 2 swings out of Krennic. He's vulnerable, so you got to get Sentinel or healing or shields on this character so he can continue to put pressure out over and over.
If only he were in an aspect that specialized in Sentinel healing and shields.
Darn it!
Good times, good times. All right, well, moving on. We got Surprise Strike, a 2-cost cunning tactic event. Attack with a unit. It gets +3/+0 for this attack. Super useful with Han Solo, of course, because you're going to swing extra and shoot first. But really,
9 first strike. Ew.
Yeah.
Seems really good with almost anybody.
I see you're relentless, and I kill it. Or at least I would if it didn't blank my event.
Good times.
This
good
card
times.
is very, very swingy. You can get some really big value attacks out of nowhere. +3/+0 is no joke. And 2 resources. Not bad. Not bad at all.
Not bad at all. We talked a little bit about the restored ARC 170, a 2-cost vigilance and heroism space unit, rebel, vehicle, fighter, 2 attack, 3 health. This has Restore 1, so when this unit attacks, heal 1 damage from your base. I do note that Restore works on bases, but unlike our friend the medical droid, it cannot heal units. So far, I don't think we've seen anything that is a omni heal, as it were.
As far as the keyword, yeah. Now, the next card up in the list, Repair, is an event that does say that it heals from either a unit or a base, 3 damage, which, at first, my first impression of this card was, well, it's really going to depend on the math. How much is 3 damage really? Then we got to the point where I'm like, well, I'm not sure that this is actually good enough. And then they revealed the Vigilant Honor Guards that actually care about not having damage on them. and that makes this card so much better because you now want those spot heals. And yeah, it doesn't really matter if I only healed 2. The point is I got them back to full, and that turned their Sentinel back on. So I think this card's definitely going to see play with the Vigilant Honor Guards. Still not totally convinced that it's good enough on its own without that sort of combo. But I mean, this sort of game is made for those sort of combos. So
It's 10% of your health, so it can extend you one turn.
I'm going to run a little counter to you, as always, Nathan. I think this is a pretty good card for the math because dealing 4 damage cost me 3 resources. Healing 3 damage only cost me 1.
yeah, but dealing 4 damage could also save you from getting damaged by killing your opponent.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs.
The math is always weird when you're trying to compare damage versus healing. But you know what? We could have a whole episode that's just based on that whole design philosophy and mechanic and how the different maths work. And that would be like 3 hours as well. So let's continue on.
Yeah, I'm like you though. Now that we know that there's at least one card, possibly more, that you turn things back on by taking all the damage off of it, that really ups the value of repair or healing in general.
I'll just say this. I used it a couple times to win games because it got me the extra turn I needed, or it turned on the Sentinel. That was the big one, is being able to take off damage, turn on Sentinel, shield up that character, and then let my opponent cry. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. This is just not an actual card, but the shield token I was talking about earlier. Beautiful art. I love that it has all the text on it.
Please give us a B-Wing card, please. I love that.
Although this does say if damage would be dealt to attached unit, prevent that damage. If you do, defeat a shield token on it. That definitely mentions units by name. So perhaps my theory of shielded bases is now well and truly defeated.
No, we just need another token for the base.
Touche.
That's oriented sideways. Yeah, landscape instead of vertical.
Yep. And here's that experience token I was talking about with Luke balancing Yoda and the +1/+1. Pretty cool. I love.
Or you could just use the really cool Gamegenic tokens.
You could. And then I believe the rest of these cards we have talked about in a previous episode, except for, well, the Cell Block Guard is new. Excuse me.
This card's dumb. It's good.
A 3/3 Imperial Trooper Sentinel ground unit for villainy only. And he is at 3 cost for a 3/3 Sentinel. Yes, please. Shut up and take my resources, as we say.
I guess what's coming out on turn 2? This thing.
This guy. And I don't know that we had seen the Catacombs of Kadera base yet. The aggression base, 30 health, of course, red, and the Jeddah keyword. So that's pretty cool.
We're going to see Rogue One.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gonna play me some Viper Probe Droid is a nuts card. Use it.
Yes. 2 cost villainy unit for the ground. Imperial droid, 3 power, 2 health. When played, look at an opponent's hand. Wow.
And if you can put those 2 experience tokens on it, it's a 5/4.
Yes.
And this droid has the Imperial keyword, which does trigger off of a couple other things. Or causes other things to trigger. That means that the Viper Probe Droid can use maximum firepower.
Yes, it can.
Good times. And of course, Sugi has already told us about I Am Your Father. Perfect.
No!
The iconic moment of Star Wars, even after all these years. One of the greatest twists in all of cinema. So
and great artwork here. Solid artwork.
Deal 7 damage to an enemy unit unless its controller says no. If they do say no, draw 3 cards. Kids, just say no.
Just say no.
Don't let people die.
The artwork in person looks way better.
I can't wait to play this on my opponent's 7 health ATST. ATST, I am your father. ATST. How does it even work?
Listen,
Nani.
I know the rebels call me a chicken walker, but I'm not really a chicken. Yeah. Good times. Okay. Yeah, I think that brings us to the end of the list of ones that we haven't actually already discussed. So I shall stop sharing my screen. And oh my gosh, we've been doing this for a while. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, you guys. Sugi, any final thoughts about your Gen Con SWU experience?
Yeah, I think that people should give the game a shot. When you're playing the game, the art isn't really as relevant. You're way more focused on the mechanics and the puzzle solving. The game is very, very strong, both mechanically and thematically. There's a lot of interactions. The pacing is important, tempo is important, card management is important, prediction is important. It on the surface, so like something I learned when I was talking to Jim and Jeremy, is they wanted this game to be approachable for anyone and everyone. So that way, if you just want to play with your friends and you want to have these big slap fights of Luke versus Vader, you can. But if you want to go really deep, you want to dive into the combo lines and the aspects and all of the different things that have been put into the game, you can. So it's a game that you get out of it what you put into it. So
Right.
it's available, not now, but they want it to be available, accessible, enjoyable. So if you just want to play it for fun and relive your favorite moments from films, go for it. If you want to play a really good trading card game, you can. If you want to be a collector, if you want to be, playing this in multiplayer, there's so many different jumping off points. It's not that classic trading card game of it's 1v1. If you don't spend $500, you won't have a good time. And if you don't like this certain theme, you won't have a good time. It's really open-ended. And I think as long as FFG supports the product, there's no shortages. They stay on top of organized play, distribution, and make sure that no broken decks go out of control. I really do think we could see a contender here in the mainstream market. A lot of it relies on FFG doing their job, but the groundwork and skeletal structure is set. And for 30-card demo decks, I never got bored, and I must have played 30 or more games, and I still wanted to keep going back. And I knew every card in the set at that point. Like you just figured out after like 5-10 games, but it was still constantly fresh and very enjoyable. And that's arguably the worst iteration we'll ever play of this game is 30-card demo, pretty vanilla decks. So the moment we get more cards and constructed and all the other sealed stuff that they've got in line, like it's going to be great. I don't want to go back to Gen Con next year. Sorry, too much. Too many people.
Well, I'm hoping to go back to Gen Con next year, so maybe there will be some promos that I could get you in return for the promos you got
fair.
us.
I'm an Adepticon guy. I want to go to miniature conventions. I don't want to spend like $4,000 to just play tournaments for 5 days. That is not my idea of a vacation. Also, I'd rather spend that going to Disney, like very point blank. If I was like, hey, you have $4,000, where do you want to spend it on? Disney World, please. Thank you.
Yes. All right, guys.
I want to go Rise of the Resistance.
We have been podcasting long enough that my earbuds are giving me the warning low battery signal, which I'm like, the right one has already shut down. So I only hear you guys over here. Anyway, thank you so much for sticking with us, listeners, for this very special episode. And we hope you guys can continue to enjoy listening to What a Piece of Junk. Sugi, thank you so much for joining us. And we can't wait to talk to you again about Star Wars Unlimited someday soon. So until then, everybody, please always respect each other and always respect each other's fandom. All right, Nathan, punch it.